In the quiet breath between heartbeats, before a universe decides whether to continue or collapse, there exists a moment where destiny hesitates. It is in that fragile pause, that trembling instant of almost silence, where a Saiyan stands against the will of a god who believes himself absolute. And though the Omni-King's fingertip glows with the power to end eras, the cosmos feels something it has never known before. Resistance. A single spark, golden and calm as a sunrise held in the palm of a mortal hand, flickers against oblivion. And for the first time in all recorded creation, the supreme erasure does not fall like judgment. It wavers. Because Goku, bearer of ultra instinct, vessel of instinct sharpened beyond perfection, warrior who has died and risen more times than fear can count, does not kneel. He steps forward. And in the eyes of every god, every angel, every trembling star, something new dawns. Not rebellion, but evolution. Before we step into this alternate destiny, before the thread of fate splits and sings a different song, remember to stay close on this journey. Stories like these vanish if no one carries them forward. Let's walk this path together so our timelines never fade into silence. The erasure began the way storms do in forgotten legends, not with thunder, but with a quiet so complete it devoured breath. Zeno's small hand lifted, glowing with a soft, innocent blue that belied the weight of absolute finality. Entire timelines had collapsed under that gesture. Gods had bowed. Angels had watched without blinking. Nothing had ever resisted. Nothing had ever tried. Goku stood at the center of the crumbling world of void, the arena still echoing with the distant ghosts of the Tournament of Power. But now, its endless white expanse trembled. Space folded around Zeno's rising palm, like reality itself was stepping back in apology. He felt it, a pressure that didn't crush the body, but pressed directly on the soul, peeling at it like delicate parchment, a chill like falling through eternity, a whispering sensation, like his memories were turning to dust. Goku had felt fear before, against Vegeta, Frieza, Cell, Buu, Jiren, but this was different. This wasn't fear. This was acceptance tugging at the edges of his spirit. A part of him, quiet, obedient, conditioned by countless battles to trust higher powers, whispered that this was the natural end, that if a being like Zeno decided fate, then resistance was simply arrogance wearing a hero's mask. He could feel himself leaning toward that quiet surrender. But something inside snapped. Not a roar, not a surge, something smaller, deeper, older. A memory with no image attached, a sensation buried beneath centuries of Saiyan instinct, the ancient refusal to die quietly. The ancient fire of a race that once clawed its way across moons and planets long before it understood words like destiny or justice, a whisper that lived in blood, not thought. No. It wasn't language, only will, raw, primal, golden. The erasure beam descended. Goku's eyes narrowed and his lungs exhaled a slow breath that felt like it came from every lifetime he had ever lived. His aura didn't explode outward, it folded inward, condensing, refining. The silver brilliance of ultra instinct dimmed, not from weakness, but from transformation, pulling back like a star gathering itself before collapse. The incoming light of erasure touched the air around him, and the universe shuddered. Whis felt it first. His staff trembled by a fraction, something it had never done in the presence of the Omni-King. Beerus staggered back, his eyes widening with a fear he didn't understand. The Grand Priest's calm expression flickered, almost imperceptibly, as if for a single heartbeat his calculations had failed. The erasure did not pass through Goku. It parted around him. Zeno's smile faded, small eyes blinking with confusion rather than anger. The erasure beam intensified, the brightness warping the world into ribbons of blue and white. Yet Goku's silhouette remained, standing inside a quiet sphere of golden pressure. He didn't know how he was doing it. He only knew he couldn't let himself disappear. Not yet. Not here. His fingers curled into a fist. The aura around him shifted, gold, but not the wild, raging gold of Super Saiyan. This was something calmer, deeper, a gold that felt alive, like sunlight reflecting off water untouched for millennia. A gold with no heat, no fury, only intention. Golden instinct. Not a new form, but a fusion, the serene divinity of ultra instinct intertwined with something unmistakably Saiyan, something instinctive, emotional, unafraid of desire or consequence. A balance the angels thought impossible. Inside the silence, Goku heard his own heartbeat. Slow, heavy, purposeful. He lifted his chin. The erasure beam strained, crackling with pure omnipotence, but the golden aura did not bow. It held, not by force, but by will, by a decision made so completely that even cosmic judgment hesitated to touch it. Goku stepped forward, and space groaned like a creature wounded. A voice rose inside him, not external, not divine, but intimate. Not this time. It wasn't a rebellion. It wasn't pride. It was truth. He didn't want to die. He didn't want this universe to end. He didn't want his friends, his son, Vegeta, the billions of lives he'd fought for across eras to vanish in a breath meant to be final. The golden aura brightened. Zeno lowered his hand slowly, like a child watching his favorite toy break in a way he didn't understand. Confusion clouded the small king's face. "Goku, why aren't you gone?" Goku looked up, and the arena, the gods, the angels, the entire tapestry of existence inhaled. Something had changed. Something irreversible. The Omni-King had asked a question, and the mortal standing in front of him had the right to answer. The air quivered. Goku took another slow step, the golden aura rippling like a heartbeat across the void. And for the first time since the concept of endings was created, Zeno stepped back. The world of void distorted around the small figure who ruled all things. Where Zeno stepped back, space folded as though bowing away from him, unwilling to support the weight of his hesitation. It was a subtle motion, a single backward drift, but the cosmos reacted like a prophecy had been shattered. Beerus's throat tightened. He had seen Goku break barriers, rewrite expectations, surpass gods in raw spirit. But this was sacrilege wrapped in calmness. Even the destroyer couldn't understand what he was feeling, a mix of awe, terror, and something dangerously close to hope. The Grand Priest, meanwhile, tilted his head by a fraction. His serene eyes flickered with silent calculations. For endless ages, he had spoken of Zeno's power as absolute, as unquestionable law. Yet he observed now with the quiet curiosity of a scholar discovering the first flaw in a perfect theory. Whis exhaled softly, a breath that almost formed a smile. Almost. The erasure beam dissolved into dust-like motes of light, drifting harmlessly through the air. Goku's golden aura pulsed once, twice, like a second heartbeat synchronizing with the universe. He didn't raise his fists. He didn't roar or charge. He simply stood there, chest rising and falling with a calmness that felt eerier than any rage he'd ever shown. His voice, when it came, wasn't loud. It was raw. It was human. "Zeno, I don't want to disappear." The words echoed like a tremor beneath still water. Zeno blinked, his round eyes glistening with something unfamiliar.
confusion that bordered on fear. In all timelines, in all histories, no one had ever addressed him like this during judgment. No one had ever been alive to try. Zeno's small mouth tightened. But Goku has to be erased. You're too strong. Those words cut deeper than any blade. Goku understood. He always had. Power invited fear. Power distorted trust. He had faced that truth as a boy, as a Super Saiyan, as a man who dared to surpass gods. But hearing it from Zeno, the being he had once cheerfully played with like a friend, hurt in a way no battlefield ever had. He lowered his gaze, touching the quiet inside him. Golden Instinct hummed, not as a transformation, but as a state of acceptance, the merging of his heart's softness and his warrior spirit's fire. He lifted his eyes again. I don't want to fight you, but I can't let everything end because I got stronger. That's not fair. That's not right.
Zeno's expression wavered. The air vibrated with his rising power, raw, childlike, terrifying in its simplicity. The world dimmed around him, colors draining like paint sinking into cold water. The angels raised their staffs. Beerus stepped backwards, staring with wild, helpless eyes. He knew what was coming, something far worse than erasure. Judgment laced with emotion, a tantrum from the king of all existence. The Grand Priest's voice cut the air like a whisper of steel. Zeno-sama, please calm yourself. Zeno didn't. A shockwave exploded from him, silent, colorless, but heavy enough to twist the horizon into a spiraling vortex. The world of void cracked like thin glass, fractures of light spider-webbing outward. Goku stood firm, planting his heels. And then something happened that none of the gods or angels foresaw. His aura resonated with the shockwave, not clashing against it, but absorbing it, softening it, as though his ki recognized the tantrum as emotional energy rather than destructive force. Golden Instinct pulsed again gently, like a hand reaching to steady a child. Zeno froze. Not in fear, in recognition. Something about Goku's energy reminded him of something he couldn't name, something buried beneath countless cycles of destruction and rebirth. A memory of warmth, softness, compassion. Something that had been stripped from him long before angels shaped rules and universes danced in orbit around his will. Zeno lowered his hand a little. Goku took another step. The golden aura shimmered behind him like wings made of sunlight. It was not divine. It was not angelic. It was simply alive. Zeno, he said again, voice steady, I don't want to fight. I don't want to hurt you, but I won't let myself be erased. For the first time in all eras, Goku saw the Omni King hesitate, truly hesitate, not out of confusion, but out of emotional conflict. A king who had never been challenged, a child who had never been protected, a god who had never been understood. Zeno's hands trembled. You're not supposed to say no to me. Goku's heart clenched at the sadness in those words. I know, he said softly, but maybe it's time someone did. Silence swept the void. The fractures in space stopped spreading, and in the luminous stillness, the Grand Priest's eyes narrowed, not in anger, but with a chilling realization. The universe had just changed. Its laws had shifted. Its hierarchy had cracked, and the balance between mortal and God had taken its first irreversible step into a new era. Golden Instinct flared. Zeno's breath caught. The world held itself still. The void felt colder now, not because Zeno willed it so, but because every divine being present sensed the unfathomable shift taking place. The Grand Priest's fingers tightened around his staff. For the first time since existence took shape, the calculus of creation no longer held a guaranteed answer. It unnerved him in a way he did not allow to show. Whis' serene face dimmed with something like awe. Beerus no longer breathed. Goku, meanwhile, simply stood there, golden aura pulsing softly, calmly, like sunlight drifting through morning fog. His chest rose and fell in slow rhythm,
as though he were grounding himself in a truth far older than the gods surrounding him. Zeno stared at him, small hands trembling, bright eyes flickering in conflict. For all his omnipotence, the king of all existence looked lost. It hurt to witness. "Goku," Zeno whispered, voice trembling between anger and heartbreak. "Everyone listens to me. Everyone disappears when I say so. Why? Why aren't you gone?" Goku took in the question, not as a threat, but as a child's cry for understanding. He had raised sons, fought enemies who'd become friends, faced gods who were more afraid than they appeared. But never, never had he faced something like this. He didn't see a tyrant. He saw a lonely being who had never learned the meaning of being told no. Goku lowered his head for a moment, eyes closing. His aura dimmed, softening into a warm hue barely brighter than a candle flame. He murmured, "I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm not trying to break your rules, but I'm alive, and I want to stay alive. I can't just let myself vanish." A breath shuddered through the void.
The Grand Priest stepped forward by half an inch, subtle but filled with intent. With his eyes sharpened a degree, recognizing the shift, Beerus twitched, the faintest hint of a growl building low in his throat. But Goku was focused solely on Zeno. "You told me once," Goku said softly, "that you liked me because I wasn't scared of you." Zeno blinked, his hands clutching each other. "Yeah, you were fun." Goku smiled gently, small, warm, human. "I'm still not scared, but I'm not gonna let myself be erased. It doesn't mean I'm your enemy. It just means I get to choose." Zeno's pupils expanded slightly, like a light flickering in a dark room. "Choose?" "Yeah," Goku nodded. "I want to live. I want to protect my universe. I want to keep fighting strong people, making friends, seeing how far I can go. I want all of that. And I think it's okay to want something, even if a god says otherwise." The words pierced the silent void like sacred law being rewritten. The Grand Priest's voice rose, impossibly calm, yet edged with urgency. "Zeno-sama, this is dangerous. Mortals cannot be allowed to resist your will. It breaks the foundation of all creation." Goku turned his gaze toward the Grand Priest. Not defiant, not hostile, but steady. Maybe the foundation needed a crack. The angels stiffened. The Grand Priest's staff hummed, as though the universe vibrated in disapproval of that single statement. Zeno's breathing quickened. A storm gathered at the tips of his fingers, swirling motes of blue-white erasure, the pure essence of nothingness unmade. The air turned, trembling in fear of itself. Beerus snarled, "Goku, stop provoking him." "You don't know what?" But Goku didn't look away from the Omni King. He could feel it, the conflict tearing at Zeno's tiny frame. Power beyond comprehension fought against emotion born from a place no one had ever touched. Zeno had destroyed universes with the same ease a child crushed sandcastles. But this, standing before someone who refused to crumble, was new, terrifying, intriguing. Goku stepped closer, each footfall sending gentle ripples through the void. "I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I have a choice. Everyone does. Even gods." Zeno's hands lifted. The erasure storm spun around him like a miniature galaxy of annihilation. The Grand Priest stepped forward, voice firm. "Zeno-sama." "Stop." Zeno cried, tears of light gathering at the edges of his eyes. He's supposed to listen. He's supposed to go away when I say." The storm surged outward. Goku didn't flinch. The golden aura expanded, not violently, not angrily, but like a warm glow spreading through cold water. It met the storm's edge with a gentle push, not a clash. The erasure energy bent, curving around him once again as though refusing to touch him. Zeno gasped. The Grand Priest's breath hitched, and somewhere within the void, a forgotten truth awakened. Creation itself responds to will, not authority. Power is not obedience. Power is intent. Goku's voice was almost a whisper. "I'm not afraid of you. I care about you, but I won't disappear for you." Zeno's tears hovered in midair, suspended by shock. You care?" Goku nodded once, golden light catching the reflection of a god's loneliness. The storm around Zeno flickered, dimmed. collapsed. The void fell silent once more, and for the first time in existence, the Omni King felt something he had never needed to understand. Choice. His and Goku's. A tiny breath escaped Zeno's lips, trembling on the edge of transformation. The silence that followed was not peace. It was the breath before an unspoken truth awakens. Zeno's small frame trembled, caught between two impossible sensations, the instinct to erase what frightened him, and the unfamiliar warmth swelling in his chest. A god-learning emotion is more dangerous than any battlefield. The Grand Priest felt it instantly. His expression, normally carved from serenity, tightened with a microscopic flicker of alarm. He stepped forward again, voice still calm, but edged with a command woven into the fabric of creation itself. Zeno-sama, you must not hesitate. This state is unstable. Whis' eyes narrowed. Father. Beerus swallowed a low growl. What are you planning? Goku didn't even glance at them. His entire world was focused on the trembling child god before him, whose tears glowed like fragments of galaxies. He stepped forward again, slow, deliberate, gentle, as though approaching a wounded creature who had never known touch without fear. I care, Goku repeated, softer now. Not because you're the Omni King, not because you can erase me, just because I've seen you smile, and I don't want you to feel alone. Zeno's lip quivered. No one had ever spoken to him like that. No one had cared for him simply as Zeno, not the king, not the god, not the destroyer, but the being underneath, a childlike spark adrift in an infinite throne. The Grand Priest lifted his staff, and the air around him tightened. The void shifted into a rigid stillness, the kind that precedes inevitable action. Zeno-sama, your power is absolute. You cannot allow a mortal to influence your heart. It undermines the order of all existence. Zeno flinched at the tone. Goku's expression changed, just slightly, but enough for every god to feel the shift. His aura thickened behind him, golden waves pulsating like a steady drumbeat, a declaration of quiet refusal. He stepped once more between Zeno and the Grand Priest. Hey, Goku said softly, turning his head just enough. Don't talk to him like that. The Grand Priest's eyes widened, the first visible crack in his unshakable composure. Whis inhaled sharply. Beerus whispered, Whis, he's not actually going to... Whis' expression turned somber. He is preparing a reset, not erasure, something more severe. Goku didn't know what reset meant, but he could feel the danger in the air. It wasn't like Zeno's destructive energy. This was colder, more precise, a surgical unraveling of existence, not annihilation, correction. A reset meant rewriting events, erasing influence, erasing memory, erasing choice. Zeno saw the staff rise. His heart twisted. He didn't understand the feeling, panic, but it hit him hard, crashing into him like a tidal wave of instinct. He reached out. Stop! Don't hurt Goku! The Grand Priest hesitated, a fractional pause, but enough for Goku to feel the spark of danger turn into a wildfire. Golden instinct surged. Not as an attack, as a shield. Goku moved on instinct. His body flashed with radiant gold, as though his spirit itself had stepped forward. He stood in front of Zeno, arms spread, aura blazing like a sun refusing to collapse. Stay behind me, he shouted. Zeno froze, tiny hands pressed to Goku's back, trembling with something terrifyingly new. Trust. The Grand Priest exhaled. You leave me no choice. Light gathered at his staff's tip, silver, cold, absolute. Goku braced, teeth clenched, aura roaring. The void shook. Power built. Existence buckled.
and as the Grand Priest unleashed a beam meant to rewrite reality itself, Zeno cried Goku's name. The multiverse held its breath. The Grand Priest's attack did not sound like any technique Goku had ever heard. It wasn't a blast, nor a roar of energy, nor a thunderous eruption. It was silence. A pure, ringing absence of all things, as if a blade forged from the first moment of creation had been thrust forward. Silver light swept across the void in a perfect line. Beerus stumbled, nearly collapsing under the pressure. Whis' expression tightened, jaw clenching in rare tension. The angels across the far edges of the realm stepped back in unison, their halos dimming as reality itself bent in preparation for correction. But Goku did not step back. He stepped forward. The golden aura around him flared, no longer soft or rippling. It became a mantle of radiant force, a living storm of sunlight. Golden instinct surged through every fiber of his being, a fusion of serenity and instinct and resolve. He didn't feel fear. He didn't feel doubt. He felt purpose. Zeno clung to his back, tiny fingers gripping the fabric of Goku's gi with trembling desperation. The Omni King, who had erased universes with a flick, now held on to Goku like a frightened child. And Goku refused to let him be alone. The Grand Priest's beam struck. The world cracked. It wasn't a sound, it was a sensation, like a fault line spreading across the bones of existence. The silver light hit Goku's golden aura, and for a moment, the clash was incomprehensible. Creation energy against mortal instinct, divine correction against living will. The beam pressed forward, unstoppable. Goku's aura resisted, unyielding. Gold met silver. Warmth met cold. Choice met certainty. And the void around them flickered like a candle in cosmic wind. Goku gritted his teeth, muscles trembling under the unimaginable pressure. He could feel the beam slicing through layers of reality, through possibilities, through the very idea of him. Not killing, not erasing, but undoing. It tried to reach his memories, his purpose, the meaning behind his existence. But golden instinct fought back with equal intensity. His aura didn't rage. It sang. A low hum, gentle yet unbreakable, rippled outward, like the universe remembering why it existed. The golden light pulsed in rhythmic waves, each one carrying the quiet conviction of Goku's heart. "I'm right here," Goku whispered, voice trembling but steady. Zeno pressed his forehead against Goku's back, eyes squeezed shut. "Goku, please, don't go away." The plea struck deeper than any attack. Goku roared, not a primal scream of rage, but a cry of pure intention, a declaration that tore through the void with the weight of every friend he'd protected, every battle that shaped him, every choice he'd made as a mortal refusing to submit. The golden aura exploded outward. Time buckled, space bent. The silver beam fractured, splintering like ice exposed to flame, and streaked into 1,000 fragments that dissolved before they could rewrite a single thread of existence. The Grand Priest staggered back, staff trembling.
He had not expected resistance. He had not calculated this outcome. Whis gasped under his breath. Unbelievable. He nullified it. Beerus fell to one knee, clutching his chest. That idiot, he actually stopped a reset. Goku stood panting, shoulders rising and falling with deep, steady breaths. His aura dimmed back to his warm, steady heartbeat of gold. He turned slightly, enough to glance at Zeno's face. "You okay?" Goku murmured. Zeno looked up at him, eyes wide, cheeks damp with glowing tears. He nodded slowly, hesitantly, like someone who had never been asked that question before. Goku smiled. A simple smile, soft and earnest, more powerful than any technique he could summon. Zeno's lips quivered. Goku, you protected me. I protect the people I care about, Goku replied simply. That includes you. The Grand Priest lifted himself fully upright, staff pulsing with restrained power. This cannot continue, he said, voice no longer serene, now taut with the tension of control slipping. A mortal cannot be allowed to influence the heart of the Omni-King. This defies the order of all things. It endangers creation itself. Goku stepped forward again, placing a hand gently behind him to keep Zeno sheltered. You saw what happened. He wasn't angry, he was scared. And you don't fix fear by forcing someone to be alone. You fix it by standing with them. The Grand Priest's eyes narrowed, silver irises gleaming with warning. You do not understand, Son Goku. Zeno-sama's emotions shape all existence. If he changes, creation changes. If he wavers, universes tremble. Goku's smile softened, though his stance did not shift. Then I'll help him understand those feelings. I won't let him fall apart, and I won't let him be used to scare people. Zeno inhaled sharply. The Grand Priest inhaled more sharply, and the void began to pulse, a gentle ripple of light emerging from Zeno himself, no longer destructive, but reflective, responsive. A shift. The first shift of something greater. Goku turned slightly, golden aura flickering like a vow. You're not alone anymore, he whispered. The void held its breath. The Grand Priest's fingers tightened around his staff, and the first cracks of a cosmic rebellion, born not from malice, but from compassion, spread quietly through the multiverse. Chapter I had ignited something that no god could extinguish. Not anymore. The void trembled with an unfamiliar rhythm, not of fury or collapse, but of awakening. The golden aura around Goku flickered like a distant dawn, rising slowly over a world that had never known morning. Zeno stood close behind him, small fingers still clinging faintly to his gi, as though afraid that releasing him would cause the universe to slip back into cold inevitability. But the shift that mattered most was happening far away from Goku's radiant calm. It was happening inside Beerus. The destroyer stood frozen, caught between instinct and turmoil. His tail, normally swaying with idle confidence, wrapped tightly around his leg. His fingers twitched. His aura, thin and restrained, leaked in quiet pulses like a heartbeat he couldn't regulate. Beerus didn't understand what he was feeling. He hated that. For ages, Beerus had lived with the understanding that he was a god, and Goku was a mortal who refused to stay in his rightful place. Their rivalry had been entertaining, infuriating, exhilarating, a spark that shook universes, but never threatened the order that sustained them. But this, watching Goku shield the Omni-King, watching Zeno cling to him like a frightened cub, watching the Grand Priest prepare to strike Goku again, it twisted something inside Beerus he didn't have the vocabulary to name. Whis approached him quietly, staff glowing with restless energy. You are troubled, Lord Beerus. Beerus didn't answer first. His throat felt sanded raw, his eyes locked on Goku, who was now speaking softly to Zeno, each word a balm that calmed the trembling divine child. Goku's voice carried effortlessly through the void, reaching even Beerus like a warm tide. I'll stay. I'm not going anywhere. You don't have to be scared. The gentleness in that assurance, the sincerity. Beerus hated how much it moved him. He's a fool, Beerus muttered. An absolute idiot. A reckless, irresponsible hero, was offered gently. Beerus's jaw clenched. Don't say that. Then tell me, Whis said, tilting his head. What precisely troubles you? Beerus inhaled sharply, a brittle sound. He shouldn't be doing this. He shouldn't be able to. Resisting Zeno-sama? No. Beerus's eyes softened by a degree so small only Whis could detect it. Caring like that. Even now, even after everything, he shouldn't still believe. Whis' gaze flicked toward Goku, who was kneeling slightly to meet Zeno's eyes, offering a gentle smile that radiated through the void like a sunrise. Do you fear for Goku, or do you fear what his heart is awakening? Whis asked quietly. Beerus stiffened. His tail uncoiled and went rigid. He didn't answer, because both answers were true. The Grand Priest lifted his staff once more, silver light gathering at its tip like a stillborn star. He was calm, too calm, a calmness sharpened into inevitability. This defiance cannot persist, he said, voice a low echo through the realms. Zeno-sama, Your safety and the stability of all existence is at stake. Zeno flinched. Goku stepped forward again, golden aura rising instinctively to shield the Omni-King. Beerus's mouth opened, the faintest spark of a plea stuck in his throat. He understood something now, something he wished he didn't. The Grand Priest wasn't punishing Goku, he was protecting the hierarchy, protecting a world where Goku's existence, Goku's heart, had no place. Whis' voice brushed softly against Beerus's thoughts, calm but heavy. Lord Beerus, if the Grand Priest deems it necessary, he may remove Goku from existence, even if it requires overriding Zeno-sama's wishes. The words hit Beerus like a punch to the sternum. He turned sharply, eyes widening. He can't override Zeno. Whis hesitated, and that hesitation sent a quake down Beerus's spine. The Grand Priest, said Whis carefully, shaped the systems Zeno-sama uses to govern reality. He understands them intimately. Beerus swallowed hard. So he's trying to fix what he sees as a flaw? Goku, Whis said, eyes softening, is the flaw. At those words, something snapped. Beerus didn't realize he had moved until he was already standing between the Grand Priest's raised staff and Goku's glowing silhouette. Whis' eyes widened. Zeno gasped. Goku turned in surprise, and the Grand Priest lowered his gaze with the faintest hint of disappointment. Beerus's aura erupted, purple fire crackling like a star collapsing into fury. His fists clenched. Every emotion he'd buried for eons rose like a tidal wave tearing through the dam of his composure. You won't lay another finger on him. The void froze. The angels tensed. Even Zeno held his breath. Beerus stood between the Grand Priest and Goku, his aura crackling in slow, deliberate arcs of violet flame. That aura was not wild like in his battles. It was controlled, tightened, honed. The aura of a god making a choice he could never return from. Zeno peeked from behind Goku's arm, eyes wide, pupils tiny. He had never seen Beerus like this. Few ever had. Whis exhaled softly, his voice barely above a whisper. Lord Beerus, think carefully.
But Beerus didn't need to think. He already knew. He could feel something twisted and burning inside his chest, an emotion far older than fear, deeper than loyalty, responsibility. He had pushed Goku for years, challenged him, insulted him, dismissed him. Yet every time, Goku had answered with laughter, resilience, or stubborn defiance that spiraled into new realms of power. Beerus had watched a mortal grow into something that shattered boundaries and still somehow carried kindness like a torch. Now, Goku was standing against annihilation itself, not for glory, not for pride, but to protect someone who had tried to erase him. And Beerus understood something terrifying. He couldn't let the Grand Priest destroy that. The Grand Priest lowered his staff slightly, though his voice remained firm. Beerus, Son Goku's influence threatens the equilibrium of existence. If Zeno-sama begins to feel what? Beerus snapped, his aura erupting with a flare. Comfort, fear, attachment, isn't that what makes someone alive? Zeno-sama is not meant to be alive, the Grand Priest replied, eyes steady. His emotions determine what continues and what ends. The multiverse cannot bear the weight of his instability. Goku stepped closer behind Beerus, setting a hand lightly on the destroyer's shoulder. "Beerus, you don't have to do this." Beerus's tail lashed, not in irritation, but in something closer to panic. "Shut up," he snapped. "You always say things like that right before you get yourself killed." Goku blinked. Beerus never admitted fear, not even indirectly. Whis watched his student with quiet, profound sadness. "Lord Beerus, this path will pit you against Father, against the entire order of creation." Beerus didn't look away from the Grand Priest. "Then maybe creation is overdue for disorder." A tremor shook the void. Angels across the realm stiffened, their staves rising an inch. But the Grand Priest simply studied Beerus, not with anger, but with something far more dangerous: disappointment. "You misunderstand your role, Beerus. You are a god of destruction, not a guardian of mortals." Beerus bared his teeth, fangs glinting. "I destroy to balance life, not to erase its meaning." And Goku represents a threat to that balance. Goku, Beerus growled, represents what gods should have been in the first place. Zeno blinked behind Goku, confused. What does that mean? Beerus took a breath, the kind that rumbled through the void. It means he chooses, he grows, he regrets, he hopes. He fights for reasons beyond his own power. Beerus gestured sharply toward the angels. "We follow rules so strict they choke us." He breaks rules and creates meaning. The Grand Priest tightened his grip on his staff. "Meaning is irrelevant to the fabric of existence." "Then existence is smaller than it should be," Goku murmured. The Grand Priest's eyes snapped to him. Beerus stepped back half a step, shielding Goku and Zeno both. "I won't let you touch him. You'll have to go through me." Whis swallowed, the faintest movement. "Lord Beerus." Beerus didn't flinch. "I'm done watching him be punished for becoming what none of us could." A ripple tore across the void, fracturing the horizon like a spiderweb of starlight. It came from Zeno. His tiny hands were shaking as he stepped fully out from behind Goku, tears still drying on his face. His voice was small, fragile, barely audible. "Beerus." Beerus stiffened. "Yes." "Why are you protecting Goku?" The question hung like a blade between universes. Beerus opened his mouth, but he didn't speak. He remembered centuries alone, eons of destruction, rules that suffocated him, a life of fear masked as obedience. He remembered the first time Goku challenged him, the first time Goku smiled at him without fear, the first time Beerus felt something like freedom. He closed his eyes. "For once," Beerus whispered, voice trembling. "I don't want to lose someone who makes the universe feel alive." Goku inhaled sharply. Zeno stepped closer, eyes shimmering. The Grand Priest lowered his staff a fraction, only a fraction, but enough to mark a shift. "It seems," the Grand Priest said quietly, "that the infection has spread." Beerus snarled. "Say one more word like that, and I'll—" "You'll what?" the Grand Priest asked, calm as death. "Fulfill your title?"
A cold weight rolled through the void. The challenge had been set. God against angel. Order against heart. Destruction against perfection. Zeno looked between them, frightened, overwhelmed, but beginning to understand something he had never known. People cared for him. People cared for Goku, and those cares were colliding. He lifted a trembling hand. "Stop!" No one heard him over the rising storm. The void began to tear. The tear in the void did not look like a simple crack. It was a wound, a jagged opening where reality bled light, spilling fragments of shattered timelines into a swirling abyss. Colors that no mortal eye was meant to see bled into one another, and the fabric of existence rippled like skin around a fresh scar. It was not caused by power alone. It was caused by conflict at the root of reality itself. Zeno watched the wound widen, his tiny chest heaving with short, panicked breaths. He did not understand the consequences, not fully, but he felt them in his bones. His emotions, Beerus's defiance, Goku's will, the Grand Priest's resolve, all of it tugged at the threads that bound everything together. "Stop," Zeno whispered again, voice cracking. "Please, stop." His plea went unanswered. The Grand Priest took a single step forward, and the void responded with immediate obedience. The tearing slowed, stabilizing into a trembling fissure suspended in midair. His staff glowed faintly, a soft reminder that order still clung to existence. Barely. "Beerus," the Grand Priest said, and his voice had the calmness of a guillotine raised a fraction higher. "You have stepped beyond your rank. You have forgotten your purpose." Beerus's aura flared hotter, violet energy swirling around him in jagged arcs. "Maybe my purpose changed. You do not have that privilege. Neither do you. If your order demands we stand here and watch a scared child erase everything he touches." The Grand Priest's lids lowered, his gaze shadowed. Zeno-sama is not a child. He is the apex of existence. Goku's hand tightened on Beerus's shoulder. Maybe he's both. The Grand Priest's eyes flicked to Goku, and in that fleeting moment, Beerus realized something chilling. The angel was not angry at Goku's power, nor his defiance. He was afraid of his influence. Whist drifted closer, voiced hushed, like a teacher trying to speak reason into a dream that no longer listens. "Father, if you press harder, you may push Zeno-sama further into instability. Goku's presence is stabilizing him, not destabilizing." "Temporarily," the Grand Priest replied. "Emotion as a crutch cannot be the basis of creation. The multiverse cannot be built upon the heart of a single mortal." Zeno shuddered. He did not understand every word, but he understood the feeling of being a burden. Goku heard the tremor in Zeno's breath before he heard any words. He glanced back, golden eyes softening in the glow of his aura. "Hey," Goku said gently, "it's not your fault." Zeno's lip trembled. "If I feel wrong, everything breaks." Goku shook his head slowly. "No, things break when people around you don't care enough to help you." The words struck the void like thunder massed in a whisper. Beerus flinched. Whist looked away. The Grand Priest's grip on his staff whitened. Goku stepped closer to Zeno and knelt, bringing himself down to eye level. The golden aura dimmed, no longer shield, but warmth. "You don't have to carry this alone. You've never had anyone to stand between you and your feelings. That's not your fault. That's everyone else's failure." Zeno stared at him, eyes wide and shimmering. You're not scared of me?" "Terrified," Goku admitted with a soft laugh. "But being scared doesn't mean I stopped caring." Beerus closed his eyes, a pang cutting through his chest. The simplicity of it, the honesty, made him feel heavier than any planet he'd ever destroyed. The Grand Priest's voice darkened, a low tide dragging the world back toward cold inevitability. "This is precisely the problem. You humanize what cannot be humanized. You give weight to emotions that cannot be allowed to shape existence. Goku rose slowly, turning to face him. And what's the point of existence if nothing in it is allowed to feel? The Grand Priest said nothing. But in his silence, the void shook.
Angels shifted, halos dimming slightly, like lights flickering in a storm. Somewhere deep in the fissure, faint echoes of forgotten worlds shimmered, as if listening to a debate they had never been invited to join. Beerus stepped forward again, standing side by side with Goku now, not as a reluctant ally, but as someone who had chosen his place. "You keep saying order," Beerus said, voice low, "but order without meaning is just emptiness that lasts longer." Whis' eyes glistened with something unspoken. The Grand Priest's tranquil facade finally cracked, not with rage, but with something like mourning. "You are all children of a system you cannot comprehend. Zeno-sama's power is not merely destruction. It is alignment. If he grows attached, if he learns fear, if he learns grief, his judgment will fracture. Entire realities will exist or vanish because of whims, not design." Goku frowned. That already happened. He erased universes because he was bored. The accusation hung in the air like a blade of truth. Zeno flinched, shame searing through his tiny chest like a brand. I did." Goku turned to him quickly. "You didn't know better. No one taught you what those choices meant." He turned back towards the Grand Priest. "That's your failure, not his." The void convulsed. The fissure spasmed, then stretched wider, revealing flashes of distant stars, shattered planets, lives lived and lost. It was as if reality itself recoiled from the accusation, and yet leaned towards it, craving the honesty it contained. The Grand Priest raised his staff higher. Enough. His voice rang like final judgment. The angels spread out, forming a circle, staves glowing in eerie synchronization. A field of silver light began to form, not a weapon, but a cage, its boundaries stretching far beyond the battlefield. Whis' breath caught. He's isolating the locus of instability. Beerus snarled, "Meaning us." Goku's aura surged, gold pressing outward like a storm against invisible walls. "You're trying to lock us away?" The Grand Priest's gaze was cold and absolute. "You and your influence will be separated from Zeno-sama. His memory of you will be removed. His heart will be restored to its neutral state." Zeno's eyes went wide, panic surging like a tidal wave. "No! No! I don't want to forget! I don't want Goku to go away!" The cage tightened, light thickening like glass. Goku pressed his hands forward, aura blazing outward, pushing against the forming prison. "I'm not leaving him." Beerus' aura flared alongside Goku's, purple intertwining with gold. The void screamed. God of destruction and mortal hero side by side, pushing against an angel's perfect design. For the first time in existence, the Grand Priest's staff trembled, and the cage cracked. The crack spread like a breath of rebellion through the silver barrier. A thin light of broken light snaked across the cage wall, pulsing with defiance. It wasn't large, no more than the width of a hair, but in a realm where rules were perfect and laws were absolute, that hairline crack was a wound the multiverse had never seen. A wound made by a mortal and a god standing together. The Grand Priest's eyes narrowed, not in surprise. He had lived too long for that, but in acknowledgement of something deeply inconvenient. "Beerus, son Goku, you are pressing against forces you cannot fathom." Beerus spat a breath, aura flaring violently. "Your forces can break. Looks like they already have." Whis stepped forward instinctively, torn between duty and despair. "Father, stop this. If you destabilize Zeno-sama further." The Grand Priest's voice sliced across him. "Enough. The instability is caused by the mortal and those who enable him." Goku pressed both palms against the silver barrier, golden aura roaring outward like a second sun struggling to free itself from a dying horizon. Beside him, Beerus braced his arms shoulder height, purple energy surging in jagged bursts. The barrier shook, crackled, expanded outward like a bubble under volcanic pressure. Zeno watched trembling violently as the cage began to close around him, not physically, emotionally. It was a prison designed to separate him from the only warmth he had ever felt. "No!" Zeno cried, voice breaking. "Don't take them away! Don't take Goku away!" The Grand Priest did not turn. His voice remained calm, even as power radiated off him in a slow, catastrophic tide. "Zeno-sama, please stand still. This will be painless." That word, painless, made Zeno's chest tighten until he couldn't breathe. He remembered that word. He had heard it before whenever something was to be erased. Universes, beings, memories, all gone, painlessly, effortlessly, permanently. His fingers curled. His heart lurched. "I don't want painless!" Zeno screamed. "I want Goku!" The emotion hit the void like a meteor.
The crack in the barrier doubled in length. Light stuttered. The angels stepped back in shock, staves vibrating in discord. Thousands of years of discipline faltered in a single heartbeat. Goku felt Zeno's desperation surge like a tidal current behind him. His aura responded instinctively, flaring with new intensity, warm, fierce, protective. Goku called over his shoulder, voice steady even as his muscles trembled. "Zeno, just hang on. I'm not letting them take me anywhere." Zeno's breath hitched. "Goku!" The Grand Priest finally turned toward Zeno. Only a partial glance, but it was enough to silence every angel in the realm. "Zeno-sama, you are overwhelmed. Emotional instability endangers all creation. I must intervene." "No!" Zeno cried. "Stop! Stop!" The Grand Priest raised his staff and a sphere of silver light began to form at its tip. This one wasn't a beam or a cage. It was a seal. A memory lock. If it touched Zeno, everything he felt, everything he feared, everything he learned in these moments would be stricken clean, wiped from the fabric of his mind. Goku's heart dropped. Zeno would forget him, forget Beerus, forget everything. He would return to being the lonely, emotionless deity who erased worlds out of boredom. "Stop!" Goku roared. He slammed his aura into the cage, golden light exploding outward. The crack widened another inch, spidering into a branching pattern of broken symmetry. But the silver sphere grew and grew. Whis stepped forward, voice trembling for the first time. "Father, please, if you seal his emotion now, Zeno-sama will—" "This is not a discussion," the Grand Priest said. Zeno backed away, shaking violently. Don't make me forget! I don't want to be alone again." The last two words came out in a whisper, so fragile it turned the void cold. "Alone again?" Goku staggered, not from the cage's pressure, but from the ache in that small voice. Beerus's pupils narrowed. "Damn it!" The Grand Priest lifted his staff higher. The sphere became a small sun. Zeno's hands shot forward, reaching for Goku in pure instinct. "Goku!" And Goku answered. Not with words, but with power. Golden instinct erupted, not in a steady pulse, not in a calm wave, but in a sudden, blazing supernova of pure intent. A column of radiant energy tore upward, expanding outward, forcing the cage to bulge and tremble. Beerus roared and pushed alongside him, violet force merging with gold. The void trembled. The cage fractured again and again, until crack! The barrier split with a deafening rupture, shards of silver energy exploding outward like shattered glass drifting through an infinite sky. The cage collapsed in on itself, imploding and vanishing into dust. The angel staggered. Whis covered his mouth. The Grand Priest's eyes widened, truly widened in disbelief. Zeno sprinted forward on tiny legs, throwing his arms around Goku's waist, clinging with desperate intensity. "I won't forget you," he sobbed. "I won't!" Goku kneeled and wrapped gentle arms around the trembling Omni-King. "I'm not going anywhere," Goku whispered. Beerus exhaled shakily, lowering his arms. And for the first time since creation, the Grand Priest lost his composure.
What have you done? The void shattered into expanding rings of broken light. A new war, one of hearts, wills, and unthinkable choices, had begun. The void broke open like a storm, swallowing its own sky. Light spiraled outward in wide, concentric rings, ripples of fractured creation rolling through the realm like echoes of a scream too vast for sound. The Grand Priest hovered at the center of it all, his expression stripped of serenity, replaced by something the cosmos had never witnessed: fear. Not for himself, but for what Goku and Beerus had just awakened. Zeno clung fiercely to Goku, his small fingers digging into his gi, as if the universe itself might steal him away. His sobs shook with the tremors of a child who had never learned how to cry until now, someone who had lived eternity without understanding the weight of loneliness until he felt the pain of almost losing the one soul who saw him as something more than a weapon. Goku held him, aura dimming to a gentle warmth that wrapped around Zeno like a blanket. The golden glow softened, flickering like a candle in a still shrine. "It's okay," Goku said quietly. "I'm here. I'm right here." The words were simple, but they pierced the foundation of creation. The Grand Priest lowered his staff, his voice trembling with the strain of trying to remain composed. "Son Goku, you have no idea what you have endangered." Beerus stepped forward, tail rigid, aura still burning with sharp violet spikes. "Don't lecture him about danger. We all know who almost tore the multiverse apart just now." The Grand Priest's gaze hardened. To maintain order, sacrifices must be made. Funny, Beerus hissed, that sacrifice always means someone else's heart. Whis hovered between them, eyes clouded with a sorrow too deep for words. Father, please. What happened just now, it shows what Zeno-sama needs, not what he threatens. The Grand Priest's voice cracked like a brittle blade. Zeno-sama cannot be allowed to feel in extremes. His emotions reshape the cosmic lattice, bending the laws of existence around his whims. Goku looked up, tightening his hold around Zeno, not as a fighter, but as someone who understood pain. Maybe he wouldn't feel extremes if he wasn't alone, Goku said softly. The Grand Priest's breath faltered. Zeno buried his face into Goku's chest, his voice muffled and shaking. I don't want to be alone. I don't. Goku stroked the back of Zeno's head gently. Then you won't be. The moment balanced on a knife's edge, raw, fragile, incandescent, and the knife began to tilt. Far below the conflict, cracks in the void widened without permission, spilling free-floating orbs of multicolored existence. They were entire galaxies melting into formless light, drifting like bubbles rising from a cosmic ocean. The angels formed a circle again, this time out of instinct, not obedience, their halos dimming in fear. Reality is destabilizing, Whis said slowly. Not from Goku, but from the panic Zeno-sama felt. The realm is echoing his heart. The Grand Priest shut his eyes tightly. This is why he cannot hold such feelings. The universe bends to whatever he becomes. Beerus stepped closer to Goku, voice low. And what if he becomes someone who cares? The Grand Priest's eyes snapped open. That, he whispered, is the most dangerous possibility of all. Goku stood, lifting Zeno into his arms, holding him the way a warrior holds something sacred. The golden aura wrapped around them both, steady and soft, refusing to dim. You think caring breaks things. I think it's the only thing that fixes them. The void trembled again, not from Zeno's fear, from a shift in the field around them, a sensation like the universe inhaling sharply, waiting. The Grand Priest raised her staff again, but this time the glow was dim, conflicted, flickering like a candle in a storm.
Goku, he said, and for the first time his voice carried something almost human. If you stay near Zeno-sama, the multiverse will reshape itself around your bond. If he grows attached to you, if he feels threatened for your sake, if he grieves your absence, creation will become unpredictable. I'll help him learn, not just fighting, feeling. Zeno looked up, cheeks still wet. Can I learn? Goku smiled at him, a smile that felt like sunrise warming frozen stone. Yeah, anyone can. The Grand Priest looked away, jaw clenched. You are speaking of rewriting the nature of the Omni King, guiding him into concepts he was never meant to hold. Beerus crossed his arms, eyes gleaming. Sounds like evolving to me. Goku exhaled deeply. Nobody said gods couldn't change. For a long moment, the Grand Priest did nothing, said nothing. The angels waited. The realm trembled around them. Then, the Grand Priest lowered his staff. Not in surrender, not in defeat, in acknowledgement. Very well. Beerus's eyes widened. Whis inhaled sharply. Goku blinked. Huh? Zeno stared with awe. The Grand Priest's gaze focused intensely on Goku. If you are truly determined to teach Zeno-sama, then you will bear the consequences of guiding a power that can unmake creation. A pulse of warning rolled through the realm like a cold wind. You will be bound to him. His emotions will amplify yours. Yours will echo through him. Your bond will shape the path of the multiverse. If you fail, everything may fall. Goku swallowed, heart pounding. If it helps him, I'll take that risk. Zeno reached for Goku's hand, eyes shining. Then I want to learn. The Grand Priest's final words were a prophecy wrapped in solemn dread. Very well, Son Goku. But understand this. If you teach the Omni King to feel, you may teach him to mourn. The void shuddered. Light broke, Destiny turned, the universe held its breath, not in fear, not in awe, but in anticipation, as though the very fabric of reality leaned closer to hear the next heartbeat from the Omni-King and the mortal he refused to let go of. Goku stood still, Zeno's small hand wrapped tightly around his fingers. They floated in what remained of the audience chamber, a place once pristine in divine order, now fractured into drifting plates of obsidian and light. Each piece carried echoes of Zeno's panic, memories of a realm that had never been asked to withstand emotion. The air no longer crackled with threat. It shimmered with possibility. Goku felt the shift first, a subtle warmth spreading through his veins as if his ki had woven itself into something softer, more fluid, more responsive. He didn't understand it fully, but he could feel it. Zeno's presence inside his heartbeat. Not as a weight, as a pulse. Beerus sensed it too. He approached cautiously, tail swaying with a restless unease he didn't bother hiding. Your aura, it's different. Goku nodded, though even he couldn't fully explain what he was feeling. Yeah, it's like something's linked. Whis gazed at him with quiet shock, the kind that stretched across millennia. It is as father said. The bond is forming. Zeno's fingers tightened as if afraid the moment might vanish. You're connected to me now? He asked in a small voice filled with equal parts wonder and anxiety. Goku knelt, bringing himself to Zeno's height. Only if you want it. Zeno nodded hard, a trembling, earnest gesture. I want someone. I want you. The honesty hit harder than any blast Goku had ever taken. He smiled softly. Then yeah, we're connected. A wash of golden light pulsed from Goku's chest, meeting a ripple of pastel aura from Zeno. The two lights intertwined in a gentle spiral before fading back into stillness. The Grand Priest watched, expression unreadable, staff planted beside him like an anchor tethering him to the last threads of order. The bond is incomplete, but it is already altering the field of this realm. As if on cue, the air quivered with a subtle hum, not violent, not disruptive, alive.
Zeno felt it too, his wide eyes lifted to the floating shards of the chamber. Goku, the world looks different now. Goku rose to stand beside him. Maybe you're just seeing it for the first time. Beerus clicked his tongue. Don't get poetic on us now. But his voice held no sharpness, only fatigue, only relief. Whis drifted closer, eyes softening with an emotion he rarely displayed openly. Hope. Zeno-sama, how do you feel? Zeno hesitated. Feeling was new, strange, vast. He looked at Goku, then at Beerus, then at the angels who stood like fading shadows of a world too rigid to hold this moment. Warm. The Grand Priest's grip tightened for an instant. Warmth is not a stable emotional state for the Omni-King. Zeno's head lowered slightly. But I like it. Something in the Grand Priest's expression twitched, a flaw in marble, a hairline fracture of ancient conviction. Goku exhaled gently. Why is it wrong for him to feel good? Because, the Grand Priest replied, Zeno-sama's emotions have the power to unmake reality. Joy becomes creation, fear becomes annihilation, attachment becomes instability, and grief. Goku interrupted softly. Then we'll help him learn, just like we help kids grow stronger without hurting themselves? The Grand Priest's eyes darkened. Zeno-sama is not a child. Goku shook his head slowly. He never got the chance to be anything else. A silence fell, not cold, not heavy, pensive. Zeno's aura flickered in colors no mortal artist had ever painted, hues of innocence discovering itself. Goku felt a tug at the edge of his awareness, a soft vibration in his chest, a whisper of emotion that wasn't his. Zeno's fear. Not of destruction, not of danger, of being left alone. I'm not going anywhere, Goku said quietly. Zeno looked up, tears forming again, but this time not from terror, from relief.
The Grand Priest watched the exchange with a strange hollowness in his eyes, as though witnessing the rewriting of a law older than creation itself. Beerus stepped closer to him, voice low. "You are afraid of something else, not just the instability." The Grand Priest didn't turn. "You do not understand." "Then explain it." There was a pause, a long one. Finally, the Grand Priest whispered, "If Zeno learns how to value something, he may one day learn to mourn its loss. The last time the Omni King felt grief..." He stopped. The angels lowered their heads. Goku blinked. "Last time? What happened?" But the Grand Priest did not answer. His silence was heavier than any battlefield Goku had ever stood upon. Whis floated closer, voice thin. "Father." But the Grand Priest stepped back, voice rising with divine finality. "Enough. Whether you approve of this bond or not, the choice has been made, and the consequences will unfold." The void trembled. Reality warped, and behind Goku, Zeno gasped, gripping his chest. Goku turned sharply. "Zeno, what's wrong?"
The little Omni King's aura flickered wildly, gold, blue, white, then pitch black. A pulse of impossible power shot outward in a perfect sphere that carried no destruction but infinite pressure. Whis' eyes widened. "His heart is synchronizing with yours." The Grand Priest's staff trembled. "No, it's too soon." Beerus took a step back, tail rigid. "What's happening to him?" Zeno looked up at Goku with eyes full of awe and terror intertwined. I can feel everything you feel." Goku's breath caught. The bond wasn't stabilizing. It was accelerating. This wasn't simple resonance. It was awakening. "Goku," Zeno whispered, "I can feel your fear." A pulse detonated. The realm bent inward. The sky shattered open like a hollow shell, and somewhere beyond the tear, an ancient memory stirred. Something older than gods, older than angels, older than Zeno himself. Something that once mourned. The tear widened, not violently this time, but slowly, as if reality hesitated, as if it feared what might emerge from its own wound. The light within wasn't blinding or chaotic. It shimmered like the glow of a forgotten dawn, trembling with memories that were never meant to return. Zeno clutched Goku's hand, tiny knuckles whitening. His aura flickered like a candle surrounded by unseen winds, each pulse sending faint shivers through the chamber. Goku felt every ripple in his own chest, the fear, the longing, the fragile hunger for understanding that Zeno had never allowed himself to feel. Beerus looked at the tear with pupils narrowed to thin slits. "What is that?" Whis floated forward, staff trembling faintly in his grasp. "A sealed memory, one older than this era of the cosmos." He swallowed hard, a rare human gesture for an angel. Zeno-sama was not always alone. Goku's breath caught. He turned to the Grand Priest. He had someone before? The Grand Priest's gaze hardened, pain behind steel. "A long time ago." Zeno blinked up at him, eyes glassy. I had someone?" His voice cracked like a child recognizing a word he'd never been taught, but somehow always knew. The Grand Priest exhaled, centuries-old tension sinking into his shoulders. "The first Omni King, before you." Zeno froze. The realm froze. Even the drifting shards of reality paused in their silent orbit. I had a friend?" Zeno whispered. The Grand Priest closed his eyes. "Not just a friend, a counterpart, a twin born from the primal seed of creation, where you became the king of all, he became the king of none, the quiet one, the unseen one. His name has been forgotten by every tongue except mine." Goku stepped closer. "What happened to him?" The Grand Priest looked down, voice low. "He died." The words fell into the void like stones dropped into an endless ocean. Zeno's knees buckled. Goku caught him, lifting him gently. "It's okay," Goku whispered, steady and warm.
Zeno clung to him tightly, shaking. I didn't know anyone else was like me." The Grand Priest looked into the tear as though seeing a ghost. When he died, Zeno-sama was left alone. His memories of the first king were sealed away to protect him, to protect everything. Beerus swallowed, tail curling at the tip. "And now, the seal is breaking?" Whis nodded solemnly, "because Zeno-sama has begun to feel again, and feelings awaken memories." The tear pulsed. A figure appeared inside, not physical, not complete, a silhouette made of memory and light, small, round, familiar. A shape that looked like Zeno, but older, wiser, sadder. Zeno gasped. His aura flared wildly. Reality shivered. The Grand Priest raised his staff, voice sharp. "Zeno-sama, do not approach the memory." But Zeno took a step forward before he even realized he moved, drawn by instinct, by loneliness, by a longing older than this universe. Goku held his hand tightly. "Zeno, wait. Don't rush." Zeno looked back at him, eyes wide and fragile. "Goku? Is that him?" Goku didn't know how to answer. The silhouette inside the tear seemed to stare at them, not with eyes, but with the weight of something unfinished, something mourned. Beerus spoke softly, surprising even himself. "Zeno, listen to Goku. You don't have to face this alone." That word alone sent another tremor through Zeno's chest. He swallowed hard. Will he be angry at me?" Goku knelt to meet his gaze. "People don't stay angry when they're missing someone." Zeno's lip quivered. "Missing? Someone?" The silhouette tilted its head, a gentle motion, almost curious, almost recognition. And then it extended an arm toward Zeno, not threatening, inviting, longing. Zeno reached out instinctively. The Grand Priest's aura burst outward in a storm of silver. "Zeno-sama, stop!" But Goku stepped between them, golden aura blazing bright. "He's not touching it alone." Whis' eyes widened. "Goku, if you connect with that memory..." The Grand Priest's voice cut through the air like a blade of divine authority. "You will awaken the original bond. The first Omni-King's grief could return through you." Goku tightened his grip on Zeno's hand. "I won't let grief destroy him, and I won't let loneliness destroy him either." He reached toward the tear with his free hand. The silhouette's glow intensified. The void warped. Zeno's emotions surged through both of them. Fear, hope, grief, yearning, until Goku's heart felt like it would burst. Their fingers touched the edge of the tear. Light exploded outward, reality inverted, and the memory of a forgotten Omni-King stepped into the world again. Light washed through the void like a silent tide, warm and ancient, trembling with the weight of a memory that had slept for epochs. When the brilliance faded, the figure that remained was small, no larger than Zeno, yet his presence pressed against the realm like the gravity of a star. He was shaped like Zeno, but not identical. Taller by a fraction, eyes softer, aura dimmer, as though dimmed by sorrow, not weakness. A being sculpted from remembrance, not flesh, a soul made of echoes. Zeno stared at him, trembling. You're... The silhouette stepped closer, feet barely touching the fractured floor of the realm. His voice was soft, like wind drifting through a long-forgotten temple. "Little one." Zeno gasped. The word struck something deep inside him, a place he didn't remember, but a place that remembered him. Goku tightened his grip on Zeno's hand as a strange pulse rippled through their bond. Zeno's heart was pounding fast, far too fast for a being who could erase universes with a flick. "Goku," Zeno said, whispered, I feel something. Warm, like a memory, but it hurts." Goku knelt beside him, steady and calm. "It's okay. You're not alone." The silhouette looked at Goku for the first time. Not with hostility, not with confusion, with gratitude. You are the one he clings to. Goku blinked. I just didn't want him to be scared. The memory being nodded, as though he had known that answer. Fear shaped his birth. Love shaped his longing. The Grand Priest moved forward in a blur, staff glowing with sharp silver edges. Enough. This memory should not have been awakened. It was sealed for a reason. But the silhouette did not turn to him. He didn't fear him. He simply raised a small hand, and the space around the Grand Priest folded inward, stopping him mid-step without force or aggression, just quiet inevitability. Priest, the silhouette said, his voice gentle but weighty. You sealed me away to protect him. The Grand Priest's lips tightened. Yes, and to protect creation. Yes, and yet creation trembles now. Why? The Grand Priest hesitated, the first hesitation he had shown since the first universe was born. Because the new bond destabilizes the lattice. The silhouette sighed. The lattice was always fragile. It breaks at the hint of emotion because we built a god who was never allowed to understand emotion. Zeno flinched, shoulders curling inward. I didn't know. I didn't know anything. The silhouette turned to him, eyes glowing softly, not bright like Zeno's, but deep like a quiet sea. You were not meant to know. You were meant to exist. Zeno's breath trembled. But that's lonely. The silhouette knelt, something no one had ever seen a being of his kind do. Little one, he whispered, voice cracking. I was lonely long before you were born. Goku felt Zeno's heart break through their bond, felt the sharp sting of grief, not his own, an ancient sadness being reborn in a being too small to hold it. Goku placed a gentle hand on Zeno's back. You don't have to hold it alone. The silhouette turned to Goku. You feel his pain as if it were your own. But tell me, warrior, do you understand what you carry now? Goku hesitated. Not yet. You will. The silhouette touched Zeno's cheek, hand shimmering like a fading star. Our kind does not experience grief in moments, but in epochs. It is a storm that never ends unless given purpose. Zeno leaned into the touch instinctively. I remember a little. Someone used to hold my hand. Someone used to talk to me. Someone who made the universe feel less big. The silhouette smiled sadly. That was me. Zeno stared at him, tears gathering again. Then why did you go away? A long, painful silence. Finally, the silhouette answered. I mourned a world too much, and in mourning it, I destroyed what I sought to protect. His head bowed. I died from my own grief, and my sorrow threatened to unmake everything. The priest sealed me to save you from inheriting that grief. Zeno squeezed Goku's hand until it hurt. Then why am I remembering now? Because he changed you. The silhouette whispered, looking at Goku. His heart touched yours. His fear, his courage, his compassion, they cracked the seal. The memory being stood, his form flickered, weaker, dimmer. The seal cannot hold again. You must finish what I began. Zeno blinked. Begin? The silhouette placed a hand on Zeno's head. You must learn to feel without destroying, to love without erasing, to mourn without ending all things. Goku's eyes widened. You want me to teach him? Yes, the silhouette said softly. You hold the heart he needs to understand. The Grand Priest's voice cut through, strained, intense. This is impossible. Zeno-sama cannot. The silhouette raised his hand. The angels froze. He can. The memory being took a final step back toward the tear, form flickering like a candle in the wind. It is time for him to grow. Zeno cried out, "Wait, don't leave!" The silhouette smiled. "I never left. I lived in the space your heart tried to forget."
His final words drifted through the collapsing light. Do not fear emotion. Fear the emptiness where emotion should be. He dissolved into the tear. The light vanished, and Zeno crumbled into Goku's arms, shaking violently. "I don't want to lose anyone ever again," Zeno whispered. "Please, help me learn." Goku held him closer. "I will." The void trembled, waiting for what Zeno and Goku would become next. The tear sealed shut with a soft sigh, as if the universe itself exhaled after holding its breath for too long. The last flickers of the forgotten Omni King's light dissolved into the void, leaving behind a silence thick enough to feel. A new silence, not of emptiness, but of everything that had awakened. Goku lowered himself to the fractured floor, holding Zeno gently, as the little Omni King trembled in his arms. The golden light of Ultra Instinct flickered around them like a wounded flame, responding to Zeno's unstable aura with instinctive warmth. Beerus stood a few steps away, tail stiff, arms crossed too tightly. He looked less like a god of destruction now, and more like someone who realized the ground under his feet was no longer the ground he knew. Whis watched the sealed tear with solemn eyes, whispering softly, as though speaking to a ghost. "Older than angels. Older than us all." The Grand Priest remained motionless. His fingers dug into his staff until his knuckles whitened, a crack in the facade of the perfect, emotionless caretaker. Zeno lifted his head slowly, still pressed against Goku's chest. His voice shook like glass. "Goku? Am I like him?" Goku brushed a tiny tear from Zeno's cheek. "You're you." "But he felt so much. He broke everything." "Then we'll make sure you don't have to break," Goku said gently. "You don't have to carry that weight alone." Zeno turned, a twin zistage, in Goku's arms, staring up at him with small quivering eyes. "Goku, will you stay with me? Forever?"
Beerus sucked in a sharp breath. Even Whis flinched. Goku hesitated only a heartbeat before answering. "If that's what you need." Zeno's aura steadied slightly, clinging to Goku's warmth. But the Grand Priest shook his head, horror blooming in his expression. "You cannot promise forever. Mortals die, mortals fade, mortals leave behind grief that gods cannot endure." Goku looked up at him, a new resolve burning in his eyes. "Then teach me how not to leave." The Grand Priest froze. Beerus whispered, "Goku, do you even know what you're saying?" But Goku did. His gaze shifted, from Zeno to the fractured realm around them, then back to the Grand Priest. "Teach me," Goku said softly, "what it means to stand beside him not as a mortal, but as someone who won't break his heart." A shockwave of stillness rippled outward. Whis' eyes widened in realization. Beerus surged forward in disbelief. Zeno's entire body glowed in trembling gold and blue, and the Grand Priest's staff dimmed, not with anger, but with the weight of destiny being rewritten in real time. "You wish," the Grand Priest whispered, "to ascend." Goku's voice was quiet. "I wish to stay." For the first time since creation began, Zeno smiled through tears, and the universe around them trembled, not from fear, but from the birth of a new possibility, a mortal choosing to become something more, not for power, but for someone who needed him. The void realm shifted again, but not with the violence of before. No rips, no tears, no cosmic ruptures. Instead, it felt like the entire multiverse leaned in, aware that a line had been crossed, one no god, angel, or mortal had ever dared touch. The Grand Priest lowered his staff, Whis held his breath, Beerus stared at Goku as though seeing him for the first time. And Zeno, small, trembling, glowing in Goku's arms, looked at him with something no Omni-King had ever held before. Hope. Ascend, the Grand Priest repeated, the word heavy, sacred, frightening. Do you have the faintest idea what ascension demands? Goku shook his head. No, but I'll learn. Mortals do not learn ascension, the Grand Priest replied. They survive it, if they can. Goku didn't flinch. Then I'll survive it. The Grand Priest's eyes drifted to Zeno, who clung to Goku's gi with tiny shaking fingers. You are the key to his stability. The bond must be close, constant, but if you fail, even once, creation unravels. Goku's hand tightened around Zeno's back. Then I won't fail. The Grand Priest looked at him for a long moment, searching for cracks in his resolve. He found none. Finally, he spoke. Ascension is not transformation. It is not a form nor a technique. It is the unraveling of the mortal self so it may be woven into the eternal fabric without breaking. Goku blinked. That sounds painful. Beerus muttered under his breath. Only Goku would say that like he's asking about a workout. The Grand Priest continued, voice cold and reverent. Ascension burns away everything you have been, your body, your limits, your timeline, your mortality. If you survive the fire, you are reborn as something the multiverse can sustain beside him. If you fail, Goku, there is no afterlife to catch what remains. Goku looked down at Zeno, whose tears shimmered like tiny stars. If that's what it takes to help him, it's worth it.
Zeno whispered, voice cracking, I don't want you to disappear. Goku cupped his cheek. I won't, I promise. But Zeno knew the truth better than anyone. Promises meant nothing in the face of cosmic law. Whis stepped forward, tone softer now, almost mournful. Goku, ascension can take thousands of years for divine beings. Mortals burn out in seconds. Goku gave a small smile. Guess I'll just have to go faster. Whis fought the urge to laugh or cry. You truly are impossible. Beerus's voice shook with a strange mixture of anger and something like fear. Goku, if you do this, there's no going back. You won't be Saiyan. You won't be mortal. You won't be anything we understand anymore. Goku looked at him gently. I'll still be me, but you won't be mine to destroy anymore, Beerus muttered bitterly. And I don't know if I'm ready to lose you. Goku's smile softened. You're not losing me. I'll still visit. Beerus scoffed, but his voice cracked. Zeno tugged weakly at Goku's gi. I don't want you to get hurt. Goku pressed his forehead to Zeno's. I'll be okay. The Grand Priest raised his staff and the void shifted again, not violently, but with a sacred order. Pillars of light formed a circle around Goku and Zeno, ancient glyphs spinning like constellations that had never been named. This, the Grand Priest said, is the chamber of ascension. No mortal has ever stood within it. Goku stepped forward without hesitation. The light rippled around him, scanning, measuring, judging. The air grew heavy, vibrating with the frequency that made even Beerus step back. Goku exhaled slowly and handed Zeno to Whis. Zeno screamed, No, don't let go. Goku froze. Zeno lunged, trying to cling to him, but the Grand Priest raised a hand, trapping the child in a gentle bubble of safety. He cannot enter with you. Zeno pounded against the barrier, tears streaming. Goku, no! Don't leave me! Goku's heart broke, actually broke, and for a moment, his resolve shook. But then he felt it. If he stayed mortal, Zeno's heart would always fear loss. If he ascended, Zeno could learn love without destroying everything he touched. Goku smiled gently. I'm not leaving you, buddy. I'm just stepping ahead so I can reach back for your hand. Zeno sobbed, tiny fists slamming uselessly against the barrier. Please, please don't disappear. Goku stepped fully into the circle. The pillars blazed, the void roared. Whis whispered, "It has begun." Beerus clenched his fists. "Idiot! Idiot! Idiot!" The Grand Priest lowered his head. "Son Goku, may your soul endure." The light swallowed him. Zeno's scream echoed through all realities. Light did not simply swallow Goku, it unmade the world around him. The Chamber of Ascension was not a place, it was a truth stripped bare. The moment Goku stepped inside, sound died, space unraveled, and time folded into a single trembling line. There was no floor, no sky, no gravity, no breath, only a vast, colorless expanse where existence hovered between becoming and dissolving. For the first time in his life, Goku felt what it meant to be perceived by the entire cosmos. Every star watched him, every law weighed him, every thread of reality whispered, "Are you worthy?" His body flickered between form and abstraction, muscle dissolving into motes of energy, bones becoming thin strands of ki, his heartbeat stretching into echoes that barely remembered being alive. But at the center of that dissolution, one thing burned steady. Zeno's tiny voice echoing through the walls of creation, "Goku, please don't disappear." Goku gritted his teeth as the chamber's pressure intensified, trying to pry that memory away, trying to strip him down to pure essence. "No," he whispered into the void. "That stays."
A pulse of resistance rippled from him, surprising even the chamber. The light dimmed for an instant, adjusting to a mortal who did not break as expected. Outside, the void realm trembled. Zeno hurled himself against the barrier again, tears streaking down his glowing cheeks. Every impact distorted the bubble, warping the very fabric around him. "Let me in! I need him!" The Grand Priest knelt, something very close to fear tightening his face. "Zeno-sama, please, you must remain calm. If your sorrow intensifies, your power will—" The realm buckled. A dozen universes flickered. Two almost blinked out entirely. Whis held Zeno from behind, trying to stabilize his aura. Beerus stood frozen, watching the child with a mix of pity and terror. "If he cries much harder, we're done for." Whis whispered into Zeno's ear, voice trembling slightly, the first time Goku had ever heard the angel sound human. "He is not leaving you. He chose this for you." Zeno shook his head, wailing, "I can't feel him anymore." The Grand Priest reacted instantly. He extended his staff, touching the barrier imprisoning Zeno, and a small window opened, not into the chamber itself, but into the echo of Goku's spirit. A shimmering silhouette of Goku flickered into view, just a faint outline, a heartbeat pattern, a fading shadow of who he was. Zeno reached toward it with shaking fingers. "Goku?" Inside the chamber, Goku flinched as the light twisted into new shapes. Something tugged at him, a tiny hand searching for his. The chamber pressed harder, trying to sever that emotional tether. It showed Goku visions of emptiness, of drifting beyond identity, of a peace so absolute it required abandoning everything. But Goku stepped forward, or what used to be forward because direction no longer existed. He pushed through the dissolving haze, as though wading through a storm of shattered stars. "No," he growled, "you're not taking him from me. And you're not taking me from him." The chamber pulsed, reacting. Outside, Zeno gasped. He felt something warm brush against his hand. The silhouette strengthened for an instant, golden light flickering across its shape. "Goku, you are there!" Goku's voice whispered from the chamber, faint but real, carried on threads of transcendent ki. "I'm here, buddy. I'm right here." Zeno pressed both palms to the faint window, his tears turning from gold to soft blue, the color of relief. But ascension did not pause. The chamber's light twisted again, forming a lattice around Goku's dissolving essence. It spoke in pure sensation, not words, but truths. To stay with him, you must change. To change, you must surrender. Goku's breath hitched. Surrender? What? The light surged. Images flooded him. His childhood, the mountains, Gohan, Chi-Chi, the battles that shaped him, the losses that scarred him, the joy that kept him fighting, every memory that made him Goku began drifting upward like smoke, offering themselves to something greater. "No," Goku whispered, voice cracking. "That's my life. That's me." Outside, Whis felt the shift. It has begun stripping him of identity. If he fights too hard, he may shatter. The Grand Priest's face tightened. If he accepts too much, he may forget. Zeno shook violently. He can't forget me. He can't. Inside the chamber, Goku felt his memories being lifted. He held on to one. Zeno's small hand gripping his. A warm, fragile hand that trusted him. A child who had never been taught how to feel. No matter what I am, Goku whispered into the light, I won't forget him. The chamber responded with a cosmic roar.
His body dissolved into pure ki. Zeno felt the connection surge, then dim, then shatter into 1,000 glowing threads. Goku! Zeno screamed, aura exploding outward. Because in that moment, Goku ceased to have a body, and the chamber began deciding whether he deserved a new one at all. Goku's form scattered through the chamber like dust made of starlight. He felt himself unravel, threads of ki drifting apart, swirling in the white void like petals torn from a flower. He was everywhere and nowhere, suspended at the edge of existence. He could no longer feel his heartbeat. He no longer had one. He could no longer feel his breath. There was no body left to breathe. But he felt the pull. A force ancient as the first spark of creation, drawing him towards something immeasurable. The chamber of ascension spoke not in words, but in pressure, a tidal force turning his very essence inside out. It pressed on every part of him, testing, prying, searching, identity, disintegrating, purpose, undefined, will, unbroken. The chamber hesitated at that last part. Goku's will, even as scattered light, refused to dim. Outside, the void realm convulsed. The glassy floor cracked. Angels lost their serene composure. Whis held Zeno's tiny shoulders as the child shook violently, tears falling so fast they left trails of glowing vapor in the air. His light, Zeno sobbed. It's fading. I can't feel him. Whis's voice was soft but unsteady. He isn't gone. He is simply becoming something the universe has never seen before. Beerus looked away sharply. Or burning away into nothing. Zeno screamed, "No!" The entire void recoiled. Universes flickered like candles in wind. Even the Grand Priest pressed a trembling hand to his chest as though some forgotten emotion clawed its way upward. Inside the chamber, the scattered fragments of Goku's essence trembled. Not from weakness, but because he could feel Zeno's cry echo through the cosmos. Zeno's fear reached him through the cracks of reality, brushing against his dissolving self like a pleading hand. Goku grasped at that feeling, using it as an anchor. His scattered ki threads began to pulse, flicker, vibrate with new determination. "Buddy," his voice barely existed, softer than a dream. "I'm not gone." The chamber responded instantly, reacting to that persistent will. Light tightened around him, forming a spherical cradle of radiant pressure. Where his body once was, a molten star of raw ki compressed and twisted, shaping itself, unshaping, shaping again. But the chamber was not satisfied. To ascend, surrender your name. To endure, surrender your past. To remain, surrender your timeline. Goku strained. No, not all of it, not everything. He clung to every memory that mattered. His family, his friends, his battles, but most of all, Zeno. If he let go of that bond, the child would fall into an endless grief that could erase reality itself. So, Goku resisted the chamber. Again, and again, and again. Outside, a thin beam of light shot from the chamber and struck Zeno's barrier window.
His eyes widened as Goku's faint silhouette flickered back into view, but it was no longer shaped like his body. It was a pulsing sphere of light divided into swirling colors: silver for ultra instinct, gold for Saiyan spirit, white for pure ki, blue for his bond with Zeno. Zeno pressed his hands to the window. "Goku, you're still you." Beerus swallowed hard. "He looks like a star, trying to remember it used to be alive." The Grand Priest stepped forward, gaze sharp and reverent. "He is writing a new law. This should be impossible." Inside the chamber, the cosmic pressure increased. It demanded sacrifice, not of life, but of limitation.
Goku felt parts of himself loosening, unhooking, drifting toward the chamber's radiant core. His memories floated upward like tiny lanterns. The first time he transformed. The first time he protected someone. The first time he understood fear. The first time he chose compassion over victory. The first time Zeno held his hand. The chamber tried to claim them. Goku seized that last memory with everything he had. "No," he whispered, "this one stays." The chamber reared like a furious beast, compressing the light sphere until it cracked like glass. Zeno collapsed to his knees, clutching his chest. "He's hurting! He's hurting!" Whis' eyes widened. "Zeno-sama is feeling Goku's pain. Their bond is amplifying the ascension." Beerus hissed, "If Goku breaks, Zeno breaks with him." The chamber struck harder. Goku's ki sphere splintered, shards of his essence scattering like meteors into the void. "Goku!" Zeno shrieked, aura bursting in a catastrophic wave. The universes shook. Space rippled. Reality cried out. Inside the chamber, Goku felt himself splitting into thousands of shimmering fragments. One thought held them together. "I'm not leaving him." The chamber finally paused, watching, judging, waiting for him to either shatter or rise higher than any mortal ever had. Zeno pressed his hand to the window, voice breaking into a whisper, "Please, come back." And for a moment, just a moment, one of Goku's shattered fragments pulsed in response. The light inside the chamber of ascension shifted, not brighter, not darker, but aware. As if the chamber itself, this ancient divine machinery, woven from the laws of creation, had stopped to observe something it had no precedent for. A mortal refusing to die. A soul refusing to scatter. A heart refusing to forget. The fragments of Goku's essence hovered weightlessly, suspended in an expanse that did not know mercy. Each shard glowed with a memory, a piece of his identity. His childhood in the mountains, Grandpa Gohan's gentle voice, Chi-Chi's fierce devotion, Gohan's laughter, the quiet pride in Vegeta's eyes, the warmth of friends who fought beside him, the instinct to protect, the joy of growing stronger, the simple desire to help. And Zeno, the small hand he refused to let go of. The chamber tried to consume those memories, pulling them toward its core like stars being devoured by a black hole. Each shard trembled as the pressure increased, the light tightening with cruel precision. But one shard, the brightest, held steady. It was the memory of Zeno taking Goku's hand, scared and fragile and impossibly powerful, whispering, "Don't leave me." That fragment anchored everything.
Outside, Zeno felt it as surely as if his own heart were pulsing in the chamber. He pressed himself to the barrier window, fingers trembling, tears glowing like falling galaxies. "He remembers," Zeno whispered, voice tiny and awed. "He still remembers me." Whis lowered himself to one knee beside him. "Yes, and that is what keeps him alive right now." The Grand Priest watched in still, silent intensity, the kind that meant even he did not fully understand what was happening. Beerus folded his arms, but his voice shook. "If he survives this, he will be something different." Whis corrected him quietly. "If he survives this, he will be unique. A being shaped not by divinity, but by devotion."
Inside the chamber, Goku's essence flickered. Identity fragmented. Will persistent. Bond unbreakable. The chamber did not know how to process that. For millions of years, it had served one purpose: to test, erode, rebuild, and judge divine beings seeking to ascend beyond themselves. Mortals were not meant to enter. Mortals could not endure. But Goku's will refused the script. A pulse shot outward from his central fragment, gentle, warm, stubborn. The other fragments vibrated in response, drawn toward it like satellites pulled into orbit. Slowly, impossibly, they began to drift inward, aligning themselves around the central memory like petals closing around a flame. The chamber resisted. It increased the pressure. It tried to scatter him again. It roared with cosmic force. Goku's voice spread across his fragments like wind gathering lost embers. "I'm not done yet." One by one, the fragments resisted dissolution. One by one, they bent back toward him. One by one, they returned. Zeno gasped, pressing both hands to the window as the light inside the chamber shifted from chaotic flickering to a slow, rhythmic pulse, like a heartbeat reforming. "He's coming back!" Zeno cried. Whis's eyes widened. "No, he is stabilizing." The Grand Priest stood straighter, staff trembling. "Impossible." Beerus's mouth fell open. "He's rebuilding himself?" Inside, Goku's fragments merged, glowing with colors that had never existed in the mortal or divine spectrum. Silver braided with gold, blue wrapped in white, drifting together like rivers converging into a single radiant ocean. He felt himself expanding, not upward, but inward, deeper, toward a core he had never known. The chamber paused again, as if listening, as if learning. It spoke through pressure, through temperature, through the tension of existence itself. To ascend, choose your essence. To ascend, release what binds you. To ascend, define what cannot be taken. Goku floated in the light, neither body nor mind, only will. He looked inward at himself, his entire story laid bare. He whispered to the chamber, "I won't let go of who I am." The chamber pressed harder. "And I won't let go of who I love." The chamber trembled. "And I won't let go of him." Light exploded inward, trying to crush him. But Goku surged outward. "Because everything I am, every fight, every loss, every joy, it brought me to this moment, and I'm not letting it break." The chamber cracked. A seismic shudder rippled through creation. Outside, Zeno's eyes widened as the window flared, then shattered. A column of white gold light erupted upward, piercing the void like a divine beacon. Whis whispered, voice trembling, "He is choosing not to surrender.
He is choosing to ascend as himself. The grand priest understood, and fear touched his eyes. Then he will not become a god. He will become something beyond gods. Zeno reached toward the column of light, tears glowing like jewels. "Goku, come back to me!" Inside the chamber, the rebuilding finished. Goku's essence condensed, shaped itself, ignited. A heartbeat returned.
A form began to take shape again, but not the same as before. The chamber roared one final question: "Who are you?" And Goku answered, "I'm Goku." The light snapped, everything detonated, and the chamber of ascension cracked open. The chamber of ascension split with a sound that was neither thunder nor shattering glass, but something deeper, like the multiverse exhaling after holding its breath for millions of years. A fissure of pure light tore through the void, rippling across planes of reality that no mortal or god had ever witnessed. Every angel in existence paused mid-motion. Every destroyer froze. Every Kai felt the tremor. Every universe flickered in awe and fear. Whis shielded Zeno instinctively as shockwaves rippled outward, bending time into soft spirals. Beerus braced himself, teeth clenched, aura tight. Even the grand priest stepped back, just one pace, but enough to show the significance. Inside the fissure, something was forming. Not a silhouette, not a body, not yet, but a presence. A heartbeat that echoed like a drum struck at the center of the cosmos, a pulse that made universes shimmer, a warmth that reached Zeno first. The little Omni-King gasped, eyes widening, tears freezing midair as the light brushed his face like a familiar hand. "Goku." His whisper resonated, tugging the forming presence toward him. Inside the crack of light, Goku's returning essence spiraled inward, coiling into a shape, golden threads weaving with silver, mortal spirit entwining with divine stillness. He was reforming, but it was not seamless. He trembled. He faltered. His ki flickered like a candle fighting a storm. The chamber pressed once more, a final test. Stand, fall, transcend, or return to dust. Goku's consciousness flickered. He could feel gravity. He could feel weight. He could feel breath, faint, distant, but real. He held on to it with everything he had. "No," he murmured as the chamber tried to compress him again. "I'm not breaking. I'm not leaving. I'm not—" The chamber sealed around him one final time, trying to crush the last pieces of his mortality. Outside, Zeno's aura burst violently. White, blue, gold, everything at once. "Goku!" he screamed. The universes trembled, the angels staggered, the barrier holding Zeno rippled with arcs of shimmering violet. Whis grabbed him tightly. "Zeno-sama, please, your power, you must calm." "I can't," Zeno cried, tears falling like burning stars. "I can't feel him anymore." At those words, inside the chamber, Goku's fading essence jolted. A spark ignited. A flash of golden white flame burst through him. Zeno's voice had become his anchor, the singular thread preventing him from drifting into oblivion. Goku clung to that voice, to that bond, to that fragile heart that needed him more than anyone in the multiverse ever had. A strength rose from within him, not power, not technique, not instinct, but resolve carved through suffering. Goku pushed back. The light bent. The chamber flared. Then, he shoved the crushing force outward with a roar that shook the void. Enough! The chamber of ascension shattered. Light burst outward in a storm of glowing shards, each fragment carrying centuries of divine pressure, now erupting like broken stars. They struck nothing,
and everything dissolving into waves of cosmic resonance. The void realm plunged into silence as the dust settled. Where the chamber once hovered, a sphere of swirling white gold ki floated, trembling like a newborn star. Goku's form was still incomplete, half-shaped, glowing, shimmering between mortal flesh and pure energy. His outline flickered, his features blurred, but his presence was undeniable. Zeno screamed his name and broke free from Whis' hold, flying forward with all the desperation of a child reaching for the only safe place he had ever known. "Goku!" The light sphere reacted instantly, pulled by instinct, by bond, by something deeper than divine law. A hand emerged from the light, not perfect, not fully formed, but unmistakably Goku's. Zeno collided into that hand, tiny fingers gripping glowing ki as if it were solid skin. A pulse of warmth exploded outward. The swirling aura around Goku stabilized for a moment, forming the vaguest outline of his face, tired, strained, but smiling. "Hey, buddy." At that voice, Zeno broke, sobbing into the light. "You came back! You came back! You came back!" Goku's barely formed hand brushed his tiny head. "Told you, I'm not going anywhere." For a moment, a long, miraculous moment, everything was still. Then, the Grand Priest stepped forward, staring at the half-formed figure in awe and fear. "This is not ascension. This is something else." Whis breathed the realization aloud. "He is rebuilding himself in defiance of the chamber. Not divine, not mortal, but something new." Beerus stepped back, tail curled, voice shaking. "He's not finished." Zeno clutched the glowing hand tighter. And inside the swirling sphere, Goku's aura surged again, brighter, hotter, more unstable as the next stage of transformation began. The light surrounding Goku boiled like a newborn sun fighting against its own gravity. Every pulse sent ripples through the void realm, bending the air, twisting the floor, making the walls of space tremble as if afraid to collapse too close to him. Zeno clung to his half-formed hand with desperate, shaking fingers. The warmth radiating from Goku wasn't consistent. It flickered like a heartbeat learning its rhythm again. Sometimes it felt like skin, sometimes like fire, sometimes like nothing at all. But Zeno refused to let go. "Don't fade, please, don't fade again." Goku's voice emerged from the sphere of light, broken, distorted, but undeniably his. "I'm here." His outline flickered sharply. Almost collapsing, Zeno gasped, tightening his hold as if his tiny grip alone could anchor Goku to existence. The Grand Priest stepped closer, eyes wide with something the cosmos had almost never seen in him. Fear. "Your form is unstable. You are holding together through will alone. If that will falters even slightly—" "I know." The acceptance in his tone made Zeno tremble. Beerus snapped, unable to hide the panic tightening in his voice. "Enough! End the process, priest. He'll tear himself apart." Whis placed a hand gently on Beerus's arm. "He cannot leave now. To interrupt ascension at this stage would destroy him entirely." Zeno's voice cracked. "Then help him! Do something!" The Grand Priest slowly shook his head. "Only he can decide what he will become." Inside the sphere, Goku heard everything, not as sound, but as vibration striking the core of his reforming soul. He felt their fear, their hope, their grief. He felt Zeno's tiny heart beating in tandem with his energy. The chamber was gone, the divine constraints destroyed. Now, only two forces remained: the multiverse pulling him back into law, and his own will trying to write a new one. His half-formed body spasmed, ki shattering outward like solar flares.
Zeno shrieked as the blast hit him. Whis' staff spun, creating a shield just in time.
The Grand Priest planted his staff into the void, absorbing the cosmic shock. This is the threshold. He is attempting to stabilize into a single state. Beerus snarled, "And if he fails?" The Grand Priest met his gaze. Then there will not be a multiverse left to ask that question. The void trembled. The light intensified. Goku's voice dropped to a whisper, speaking to himself, to the universe, to the chamber that had tried to unmake him. What am I trying to be? He tried to reach inward, toward the echo of what he was. Saiyan, mortal, warrior, protector, friend, student, father, hope. But ascension required focus, a singular chain of identity. Divinity demanded one truth, one essence, one absolute. Goku had never been absolute. He had always been more than one thing, more than one story, more than one path. His light flared painfully, tearing along the edges of his forming ribs and arms. His voice cracked. "No, I won't choose just one!" The chamber energy that still lingered reacted violently. The sphere convulsed again. Goku's form ripped apart again. Zeno screamed and nearly fainted. But through the torment, Goku kept speaking. "I'm not one thing. I'm everything I fought to become. Everything I lived for. Everything that brought me here." His voice grew stronger. "I'm not letting you take any of it away." The light around him buckled, then collapsed inward like a dying star. Zeno sobbed, "Goku!" Then, a pulse. Not explosive, not violent, not destructive. Soft, warm, gentle. A heartbeat. Goku's hand, once half-formed and flickering, solidified beneath Zeno's grip. Warm skin, real skin, strong and steady. Zeno froze, staring at the now fully solid hand in his. Goku? The sphere of light peeled away like shedding petals. A figure stood at its center, barefoot, breathing, alive, but changed. Not divine, not mortal, not angelic, not Saiyan. A new balance, a perfect equilibrium of all he had been, and all he had refused to surrender. His hair glowed in shifting hues, silver and gold intertwined, but not in the sharp spikes of Super Saiyan or the ethereal calm of Ultra Instinct. It flowed like living energy, bending with emotion rather than form. His eyes held galaxies, not as power, but as empathy carved into the fabric of his soul. Whis whispered, voice trembling, "He forged a middle path." The Grand Priest bowed his head.
A state the chamber never accounted for. Something neither mortal nor divine, a will-born existence. Beerus took a step back, overwhelmed. He made his own kind. Zeno looked up at Goku, truly looked, and for the first time in his existence, the Omni King felt something pure and unmistakable. Safety. Goku knelt slowly, placing a warm hand over Zeno's trembling ones. "I didn't become a god. I became someone who won't leave you." Zeno collapsed into his arms, sobbing against his chest. The void sighed. The multiverse stabilized, and Goku, no longer bound by mortality or divinity, held the child who ruled all things, becoming the only thing Zeno had never truly had, a guardian. For a long moment, the void realm felt impossibly still, as if all creation paused to witness the return of a man who should not exist. Goku held Zeno against his chest, the little Omni King's sobs trembling through their shared aura.
The new energy pulsing from him was gentle, warm, steady. Nothing like the divine coldness of gods or the raw ferocity of Saiyan transformations. It wasn't power that flowed from him. It was presence. A presence strong enough to calm a child who ruled infinite galaxies and redefine what the multiverse believed possible. When Goku finally stood, Zeno still clinging to him like a star clinging to a planet's gravity, even the Grand Priest could not speak immediately. Whis breathed softly, voice thin with awe. Beerus stared openly, ears low, tail curled in shock. Goku looked at himself for the first time, hands glowing softly, ki humming like a serene heartbeat. His hair drifted weightlessly, silver burning into gold with each breath, but neither color fully winning. His aura hovered like a horizon where dawn met dusk. He didn't feel divine. He didn't feel mortal. He didn't feel transformed. He simply felt whole. Zeno lifted his head, small fingers gripping Goku's gi. "You're warm," he whispered, as if afraid it would change. Goku laughed softly. "Yeah, guess I'm still me." The Grand Priest stepped forward then, staff trembling slightly, his voice heavy with both reverence and dread. "Goku, what you have done is unprecedented." He paused. "Unthinkable." Goku blinked. "Did I do something bad?" "No." The Grand Priest exhaled slowly. "You did something impossible." Beerus scowled. "Explain it, priest, before I collapse from secondhand confusion." Whis smiled faintly, but didn't answer. He was watching Goku with eyes that held centuries of longing. Longing for a possibility he believed forever denied to creation. The Grand Priest circled Goku slowly, as if studying a star that had just been born. He was settling into an atmosphere. The Chamber of Ascension was created to refine gods. It strips away identity, emotion, history, so the being may be remade into something stable, emotionless, eternal. Zeno flinched. Goku held him closer. "But you," the Grand Priest continued, "did the opposite. You refused to surrender anything. You clung to every memory, every emotion, every connection, especially your bond to Zeno-sama." Zeno's grip tightened at his name. "You forged a state built not on detachment, but on attachment," the Grand Priest whispered. "So he what? He became a sentimental cosmic anomaly?" Whis shook his head. "No, Lord Beerus. He became a bridge." Zeno pressed his cheek to Goku's chest, voice shaking. "He didn't leave me." Goku brushed his hair gently. "I won't." The Grand Priest swallowed, visibly. "Goku, you have created a form the chamber could not predict, restrict, or destroy. Your essence is stabilized by will, not by law." Goku scratched the back of his glowing head. Thanks." Beerus growled. "Stop congratulating him and tell us what that means." The Grand Priest's eyes lifted, and the multiverse itself seemed to lean in. "It means, Lord Beerus, that Goku is now the only being in existence who can stand beside Zeno-sama without destabilizing creation." Whis whispered, "The only one who can teach him emotion." Zeno looked up at Goku, eyes shimmering. "You'll stay?" Goku said softly. "I gave you my word, and it doesn't matter what I am, I'll keep it." A silence fell. Not fear, not awe, but realization. For the first time in his eternal life, Zeno was not alone. But the moment of calm was shattered by a distant tremor, a dark ripple that tore through the realm like poisoned wind. The Grand Priest snapped his head upward. Whis' smile vanished. Beerus's fur bristled.
Goku felt it too, a distortion of ki so cold it froze the breath in his throat. Zeno curled into him instinctively. "What is that?" The Grand Priest's voice dropped to a whisper. "The multiverse has sensed change, and it is reacting."
Barris snarled. Reacting how? As if answering him, the void split open. Not with light, but with absence. A wound in reality. A shadow that devoured color. A force older than creation. Awakened by imbalance. Whis whispered, horrified. No, the null continuum is stirring. Goku stepped forward, placing Zeno behind him. His new aura rose like a calm tide, warm, protective, unwavering. Zeno grabbed his hand again. Goku, don't let it take you. Goku smiled gently. It won't. The void widened, and something began to crawl through. The wound in the void widened like a mouth tearing open, swallowing light, sound, and color. The air around it dissolved into strands of nothingness. Not darkness, not shadow, but pure absence, the kind that made the universe recoil. Whis stepped back, staff shaking for the first time in millennia. Beerus's breath hitched, a low growl rumbling in his chest. Even the Grand Priest stiffened, eyes narrowing with ancient dread. Goku felt Zeno clutch his arm, tiny nails digging into his skin. Goku, what is that? What is that thing? Goku lifted Zeno gently, settling him on his hip like a father shielding a child from thunder. His aura rose around them both, soft and warm like a protective cloak. I've got you, he whispered. The void shuddered. And then it emerged, slowly, painfully, as if the multiverse resisted its passage. A tendril. Smooth, pale, translucent. Shaped like ki without light. Shaped like existence without life. The null continuum did not move like a creature. It moved like an idea. A whisper of the state before creation, before gods, before laws, before anything had the right to be. Whis's voice cracked. This should be impossible. The null continuum predates even the first Omni-King. Beerus hissed, stepping forward. Why now? Why appear now? The Grand Priest answered with the weight of dread. Because ascension broke symmetry. Reality no longer knows its place. Another tendril slipped from the void wound, brushing the realm floor. Wherever it touched, space evaporated, erased as if it had never existed. Zeno buried his face in Goku's shoulder, trembling violently. Make it go away. Please, make it go away. Goku held him tighter. I will. I promise. But the tendrils kept coming, sliding out in slow spirals, searching, sensing, hungering for imbalance. The null continuum had no malice, only purpose. Erase what does not belong. Restore the symmetry of nothing. Goku stepped forward, aura shifting from warm gold to a deeper, steadier glow, white threaded with silver and gold. The mark of what he had become. The first tendril slithered toward him. The Grand Priest shouted, Goku, do not touch it! Too late. The tendril met Goku's hand, and the universe held its breath. For one impossible instant, it seemed like his hand would vanish, erased, unmade, swallowed by non-existence. But instead, the tendril stopped. It trembled. It recoiled. And for the first time in countless millennia, the null continuum reacted with something like confusion. Whis gasped, it cannot erase him.
The Grand Priest's staff glowed violently.
His new state is not bound by creation. He exists outside the framework the continuum seeks to restore. Zeno peeked up with tear-filled eyes. It can't hurt him. Goku, calm, steady, opened his hand. The tendril hovered inches away, pulsing with alien curiosity. It's not trying to hurt anyone, he said softly. It's just cleaning up, fixing what it thinks is wrong. Beerus snarled, Then it's wrong. Whis shook his head. Lord Beerus, the null continuum is not wrong. It simply is. It is the natural counterweight to existence. When something breaks the rules of being, the Grand Priest finished silently. Then the continuum comes to erase it. Zeno's small arms tightened around Goku's neck. Then it came for Goku. No, Goku whispered. It came because the rules changed, because I changed. The tendrils reoriented. Countless thin streams of anti-ki swirling toward Goku, drawn to him like iron to a magnet. They encircled him slowly, drifting, scanning, probing. It felt like cold wind brushing across a fire. Goku breathed evenly. Zeno's aura flickered wildly. Goku, I'm scared! Goku pressed his forehead to Zeno's. I know, but I'm not going anywhere. A tendril suddenly whipped forward. Goku raised his hand. It struck him. Reality shook and stopped. The tendril shattered into harmless dust. Whis almost dropped his staff. He rejected erasure. Beerus's eyes widened. He overpowered nothing with something. The Grand Priest's voice trembled. He has become a fixed point, a being that cannot be removed. The null continuum pulsed. For the first time in its ageless existence, it hesitated. Goku stepped forward, light swelling around him in soft waves that soothed the trembling fabric of the realm. You don't need to erase anything, he said calmly. I'm not here to break the universe. I'm here to protect it. The tendrils shuddered, confusion deepening, as if the continuum was trying to understand a paradox. A mortal who ascended without becoming divine. A being of presence instead of law. A soul that existed because a child needed him. The wound in the void flickered. A low hum vibrated across creation. The continuum was making a decision. Zeno trembled. Is it angry? No, Goku murmured. It's listening. The wound pulsed. The tendrils withdrew, slow and reluctant. And then, something larger began to emerge. Something shaped like a face, a question, a judgment. The true consciousness of the null continuum was coming through, and it wanted an answer. The wound in the void swelled, stretching like an eye opening for the first time in ages. The tendrils of absence retracted inward, coiling around a central point where reality folded into itself. Color, light, and sound dimmed in that spot until all that remained was a smooth, impossible surface. A face began to form upon it. Not a face like mortal or God, but an impression, the suggestion of eyes without pupils, a mouth without edges, contours without substance. It looked like a reflection in water that hadn't decided what it was reflecting. The null continuum regarded them, not with anger, with inquiry. The air around Goku thickened, not with pressure, but with expectation. The presence tested him, weighed him, moved through him like cold fingers sifting through warm sand. It brushed against his ki, seeking structure. It found none it recognized. Goku held Zeno securely, one hand on the child's back, his new aura flowing outward in calm, steady waves. Where the continuum's presence met his,
It did not erase. It paused, as if confused. A sound rose, not from a throat, not from lungs, but from the void itself. Anomaly. The voice echoed through existence, hollow and vast, spoken in no language, yet understood by all. Beerus's fur stood on end. Wonderful. Nothingness can talk. Whis swallowed, trying to maintain composure. The continuum does not talk. It asserts. It declares. This is new. The Grand Priest stepped forward, staff glowing faintly. Null continuum. This realm is under the jurisdiction of Zeno-sama. You were sealed outside the boundaries of active existence. Why have you breached them? The face shifted, almost as if amused. Order failed. Law broken. Symmetry severed. Its shapeless eyes turned towards Goku, or whatever counted as its gaze. Origin of disruption. Goku felt Zeno cling tighter at those words. He reached up and gently stroked Zeno's head, more to ground himself than anything. I'm not here to break anything. I'm here because he needed me. The continuum rippled. Existence does not need. Existence is. Goku shook his head. That's not true. Everything needs something. Light needs darkness to be seen. Strength needs weakness to mean anything. Life needs connection, or it just floats. The words were simple. The impact was not. The null continuum shivered, a faint tremor running through its vast, formless field. Zeno raised his head, eyes wet but steady. He's not a disruption. He's mine. The continuum's gaze moved to the Omni King. Its presence brushed over Zeno's aura, and the realm flinched as if bracing for erasure. Instead, it recoiled. Center of distortion, emotion unstable, risk total collapse.
Goku stepped between them, aura flaring softly, but with iron at its core. Then help him. Don't erase him. Erasure restores balance. Or just empties it, Goku said. You think the universe is clean when nothing moves, but it's only alive when things can change. The continuum pulsed. Life leads to chaos. Chaos leads to collapse. Collapse leads to nothing. Nothing is simple. Goku smiled sadly. Yeah, but simple isn't the same as right. Beerus stared at him, a strange, almost begrudging admiration flickering in his eyes. Only you would try to argue philosophy with the concept of nothing. Whis watched with quiet awe, and only he would make it listen. Because the continuum was listening. Each word Goku spoke rippled across its surface, leaving faint impressions that didn't immediately vanish. Goku took a step closer to the wound, Zeno still clasped in his arms. The tendrils of absence coiled near them, cautious rather than hostile. You're here because something changed, because I became something you don't recognize, because he squeezed Zeno gently, is starting to feel things no one taught him to handle. He lifted his gaze. I'm not a mistake. I'm a bridge between him and everything he can't touch without breaking it. The continuum considered this. Bridge, it repeated. Between totality and fracture. Goku nodded. Yeah, between power and the hearts it affects. The surface of the continuum rippled outward like a disturbed lake. Bridges collapse. Goku grinned faintly. Not if they're built right. Silence followed. Deep, humming, cosmic silence. Then, the anomaly requests exception. The word rang like a bell across every layer of reality. The Grand Priest's eyes widened. An exception to erasure? Whis whispered. It is asking if we will allow this state to exist. Beerus scoffed. And who answers that? The gods? The priest?
Zeno? Zeno swallowed, voice shaking. I don't want him erased. The continuum's attention landed fully on the child, amplifying his trembling key. Desire acknowledged. Desire causes imbalance. Imbalance causes fracture. Zeno's fingers dug into Goku's gi. Then I'll learn not to break things. The words came out so small, so honest. Goku felt them resonate through every cell of his being. I'll help him. That's what I'm here for. He took another step forward until his toes nearly touched the edge of the wound. If he destroys everything, you can erase me. If I fail him, if I push him into grief that tears the multiverse apart, if I become the reason for collapse, then take me, but don't erase his chance to become more than a weapon.
The void went silent. The angels could not speak. Beerus could not breathe. Whis could not look away. The grand priest lowered his eyes. The continuum hovered, pondering. You offer self as anchor. Goku nodded. Yeah, make me the thing that doesn't move, so he can. The continuum's face dissolved, then reformed, as if recalculating concepts it had never needed before. New state detected. Fixed presence. Mutable totality. Stability possible. The wound narrowed. Slowly. Reluctantly. But it narrowed. Zeno gasped. It's leaving? Conditional, the continuum intoned. Anchor remains. Child learns. If collapse nears, anomaly will be examined again. Goku smiled. Fair enough. The null continuum's final words drifted like fading cold. Do not teach eternity to mourn, without also teaching it to heal. The void sealed. The tendrils faded. The void was whole again. Zeno let out a shaky breath, then another, then sobbed into Goku's chest, not from fear, but from overwhelming relief. Goku held him close. Above them, the multiverse quietly adjusted its laws, making room for an impossible state. A constant presence, a learning God, and a future not built on erasure, but on choice. The null continuum felt strangely lighter once the wound closed, as though a storm that had never used wind to howl had finally drifted away. But the silence it left behind was heavy, dense with meaning, trembling with the aftershock of a cosmic boundary rewritten. Goku held Zeno until his child's sobs softened into uneven breaths. His tiny hands, once clinging with terror, now relaxed against Goku's chest. Every tremor that shook Zeno's small body resonated through Goku like an oath being carved deeper. You did good, Goku whispered. Really good. Zeno blinked up at him, face wet, voice barely audible. I wasn't brave. Being scared and staying doesn't make you weak. It makes you brave. Zeno stared at him for a long time, eyes glistening, as if learning a new definition of strength for the first time in his life. Behind them, the angels gathered themselves. Whis exhaled a breath he had been holding through entire eras of silence. Goku, what you accomplished was beyond improbable. It was... His voice faltered, and a faint smile curved his lips. Beautiful. Beerus scoffed, masking the tremor in his tail. Beautiful? He negotiated with nothingness! Nothingness! Whis' smile widened gently. Yes, Lord Beerus. Beautiful. The grand priest approached slowly, staff lowered, not in formality, but in respect. Goku, you did not just stabilize Zeno-sama in the continuum's eyes. You stabilized him in ours. Goku blinked. Huh? The grand priest turned his gaze towards Zeno. For eons,
Zeno-sama has existed as destruction without comprehension. A child with infinite power but no path. Your presence anchors him. You bring shape to his divine instinct. He paused. You give him what divinity alone never could. A reason to stay unchanged, and a reason to change. Zeno lowered his head shyly, fingers curling into Goku's sleeve. Beerus crossed his arms, grumbling under his breath. I suppose keeping the universe intact has some merit. Whis chuckled. Admit it, Lord Beerus, you were worried. What? Me? Worried? Beerus sputtered, face turning an impressive shade of purple. Nonsense! I merely didn't want to fight a cosmic vacuum cleaner. A soft sound slipped from Zeno.
The room froze. The Grand Priest's eyes widened slightly. Whis' hand went to his mouth. Beerus nearly choked on air. Goku looked down at the child in his arms. Zeno, you're laughing. Zeno pressed his hands to his mouth, startled. I didn't mean to. No, Goku whispered, smiling gently. Don't stop. The little Omni King's shoulders shook again, not with fear this time, but with small, unsteady, unfamiliar laughter. Whis blinked rapidly, looking as if the universe had just revealed a secret older than time. He has never laughed. Ever, the Grand Priest murmured, not once since the birth of creation. Beerus stared in horror. Then why did he start now? Goku looked at them all, a soft light shimmering around him like a quiet sunrise. Because he's learning what being alive feels like, and because he's not alone anymore. The chamber shifted subtly in response to Goku's presence. The same chamber that once tried to unmake him now hummed with a quiet, reluctant awe. Zeno tugged gently on Goku's hair. Goku. Yeah, buddy? Do I still break things, even when I feel like this? Goku lowered himself to the ground, still cradling Zeno, setting him gently on his lap. You're learning. That's all. Power doesn't break things. Loneliness does. Zeno stared at his own small hands, as if seeing them for the first time. Then you'll help me not be lonely again, right? The angels fell silent. The Grand Priest bowed his head. Beerus looked away. Goku placed his forehead against Zeno's. I'll be here, he said softly, as long as I'm needed, and maybe even longer. Zeno breathed in, then out, a shaky, searching breath, but calmer than any before. Then I won't erase things anymore. I'll learn. Goku smiled. That's all anyone can do. As if reacting to Zeno's vow, the void realm brightened. Thin strands of color, red, blue, gold, returned to the air like shy birds after a storm. The floor beneath them shimmered, regaining a gentle glow. The universe itself seemed relieved. The Grand Priest stepped forward, kneeling to Zeno's eye level, something he had never done in eons. Zeno-sama, he said softly, if you wish to learn, then we will teach you. Zeno blinked, startled. Really? Whis bowed. Of course, a god who understands himself is a god who no longer needs to destroy. Beerus coughed. Well, as long as he doesn't destroy me, I suppose that's fine. Zeno smiled, a small smile, but one bright enough to make the void glow. Goku stood, lifting Zeno onto his shoulder. Then let's start. The child Omni King held on to him with new confidence, not fear. But as the realm stabilized, Whis' expression shifted, growing contemplative, almost worried. Goku, he said quietly, you may have saved Zeno-sama and the multiverse, but the null continuum left a warning. Goku turned. About what? Whis met his eyes, solemn, shimmering with something like sorrow. If eternity learns to mourn, it must also learn to heal. His voice lowered. But eternity can only heal if its anchor survives the weight.
Goku felt Zeno squeeze his hand. He didn't flinch. "I'll survive," he said softly. "For him." But the way Whis' eyes flickered said everything. The greatest trial had not passed. It had only changed form. The void realm, once a silent cathedral of erasure, now pulsed with hesitant warmth. Soft motes of color drifted like newborn stars, unsure if they were allowed to exist. The universe watched quietly, adjusting its laws around a man who had stepped beyond all definitions, but still carried himself with the humility of a farmer from Earth. Goku stood at the center of it all, Zeno perched on his shoulder, one small hand wrapped tightly in his hair. The child's ki, once sharp, chaotic, unpredictable, now fluttered with a gentleness the angels had never believed possible.
Whis approached with measured steps. "Goku, may I?" He extended a hand toward Zeno, palms open in reverence. Zeno leaned into Goku's cheek. "I stay with him." Whis bowed deeply, accepting the decision without question. The Grand Priest floated forward, his expression unreadable, though the faint tremor in his aura betrayed the weight pressing upon him. "Goku," he said softly, "you have altered destiny, and destiny wishes to understand what you are." Goku scratched the back of his glowing hair. "Honestly, I'm still figuring that out myself." Beerus snorted. "Of course you are." Goku laughed, rubbing Zeno's back as the Omni King peeked down at the Destroyer God from the safety of Goku's shoulder. The Grand Priest lifted his staff. "The Continuum has accepted your existence, for now. But its warning was clear. You are now the fulcrum on which the multiverse balances." Zeno tensed. "He's not a balance, he's Goku." Goku smiled. "Same thing, maybe?" Whis stepped closer. "Your form, your state, isn't just new. It carries gravitational pull of a different sort. Not physical, not divine. Emotional." Beerus scoffed. "Emotions don't shape universes." Whis glanced at Zeno. Zeno hugged Goku's forehead. The air glowed. Beerus shut his mouth. The Grand Priest continued. "Emotion does shape universes, Lord Beerus. It shaped Zeno-sama into a child who erased to cope with loneliness. And now, perhaps, it shapes him into something greater." Goku shifted Zeno into both arms. "Then let's help him grow!" The Grand Priest's eyes softened. "That path will be long." Zeno pressed his head into Goku's chest. "I'm not alone now. It will be okay." And for the first time since creation began, the Grand Priest believed it. Whis floated lightly beside them. "Goku, your presence changes the feel of this realm, and likely the realms beyond." Goku raised an eyebrow. "How so?" Whis smiled gently. "Wherever you stand, space becomes calm. Possibilities multiply. The rules loosen. The laws breathe." Beerus rubbed his temples. "Wonderful. We turned him into a walking loophole." "Not a loophole," Whis corrected. "A sanctuary." The word lingered. Goku's aura pulsed softly in response, a warmth so profound even space-time seemed to sigh. Zeno closed his eyes, shoulders relaxing, as if feeling safe for the first time in any timeline. The Grand Priest slowly knelt before Goku. Every angel followed, bowing until the void shimmered with reverence. Beerus looked around, horrified. "Are you all insane? He's Goku, the guy who trips on rocks." Whis whispered, not lifting his bowed head. "And yet, he walked through the null continuum and returned with a heart that warms infinity." Zeno tugged Goku's ear. "Goku, why are they kneeling?" Goku sighed, embarrassed. "I don't know. I didn't ask him to." Zeno frowned. "Then stand up," he commanded. And the angels rose, not because Zeno demanded, but because something new had taken shape. A hierarchy rewritten by compassion, a throne reshaped by presence, a king crowned not by power, but by connection. The Grand Priest raised his staff. "Goku, there remains one final decision." Goku tilted his head. "What's that?" "Your place."
Where will you reside? With the angels? The destroyers? In this realm? With mortals? You cannot live all paths at once. Goku looked down at Zeno, then at Whis, Beerus, and the angels. Then he closed his eyes, and he listened to the pulse of his aura, to the breath of the multiverse, to the trembling heartbeat of the child in his arms, to the memory of Earth, its oceans, its laughter, its fields. He opened his eyes, steady and resolved. I'll walk between worlds, he said, where I'm needed, where he needs me, where anyone needs me.
The Grand Priest bowed his head. A path with no end. Goku smiled. Good thing I like long journeys. Zeno clung to him tightly. And I go where you go. Goku ruffled his hair. Of course. The Void's realm brightened fully, no longer a chamber of ascension or erasure, but something gentler. A cradle, a threshold, a beginning. Whis raised his staff to open a path through reality. Then Goku, shall we take our first step? Goku shifted Zeno onto his shoulders again. Let's go teach eternity how to live. The Grand Priest watched them walk, his expression strangely hopeful. Beerus trailed after them, muttering complaints he didn't mean. Angels followed, silent and awed. And Zeno, small king of all things, laughed a soft, fragile laugh that echoed across the realms. As they stepped through the portal, the Void's realm dimmed behind them. And somewhere in the infinite sky of creation, a constellation flickered to life, its stars forming the shape of an open hand, a symbol of the moment a mortal touched erasure and taught it mercy. The stars burned quietly, as if remembering his will.